Reboot, I'm cold red, my service automated, like data running through my veins. Got you distracted, subconscious overloaded. Careful, don't pull the cord on me. No time to stay around. Keep walking till you get out of my face. Regrets, restricted access. I'm just a flight to get up in ya. We love discharging. I can't waste my time with someone slowing me down, 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 down. So high, I'm floating, I'm shining in my prime. Start rolling over 'cause you can't take my crown. I'll always be 10 feet off the ground. My crown. I'll always be 10 feet off the ground. Can't take my crown. Can't take my crown. Can't take my crown. Rewind my circuits, but you don't get that courage, 'cause you can handle my game. No, my drive's a puzzle. I got you so bumfuzzled, 'cause you can fall into my pain. No time to stay around. Keep walking till you get out of my face. Regrets, restricted access. I'm just a flight to get up in ya. We love discharging. I can't waste my time with someone slowing me down, 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 down. So high, I'm floating, I'm shining in my prime. Start rolling over 'cause you can't take my crown. I'll always be 10 feet off the ground. My crown. I'll always be 10 feet off the ground. Can't take my crown. Can't take my crown. I won't waste my love on your heart. Sorry, 'cause I can't get what I want, and I don't need ya. Discharging, I can't waste my time with someone slowing me down, 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 down. So high, I'm floating, I'm shining in my prime. Start rolling over 'cause you can't take my crown. I'll always be 10 feet off the ground. My crown. I'll always be 10 feet off the ground. Can't take my crown. Can't take my crown. Can't take my crown.
Aggressive cut there, straight to the main screen. That's supposed to transition. Apologies. Anyway, good afternoon and welcome back to the F1 Word for the afternoon stream of the second day PM. Should we just start again? Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to Testing Live, the afternoon session this Thursday. Very, very much looking forward to this. Loads to talk about. Some interesting stuff coming out about that Mercedes steering wheel thing, or as they're calling it, DAS or DAS. DAS is good. Oh dear. Yes, loads to talk about that. Apparently the FIA have known for a while. It is apparently legal, allegedly. So we will go over some quotes in a moment. I'll be joined by Jamie and Chris shortly. As well, but very quickly, I do want to start things off by saying, and he's in chat as well, very massive big, huge hello to Akia, or Aquila. I used to call him Aquila, so I'm so sorry that I've butchered your name all these years. But to Aquila for your massively generous donation over the lunch break, sending £100 towards that mic and setup upgrade target. So thank you so much. We're over halfway and we're only on day 2. So that's absolutely mega. So thank you so much, mate. I really do appreciate that. Just that anybody wants to give any money is phenomenal. So to do that kind of money is awesome. And he's a patron as well. I mean, come on, double whammy. So thank you so much. If you want to help out by donating towards that, you can, of course, by following the links in the description. I highly recommend PayPal because they don't take any of your money, whereas Google likes to take 30%. But you can also through Super Chat and whatnot too. And I'll read out as many messages as I can. In fact, I'll read all of them, by the way, that come through on Super Chat and all of PayPal and that. So yes, thank you so much, mate. That's massively appreciated. Anyway, I'll get Jamie and Chris on in a moment. I do want to read... We'll do all the interesting bits and bobs about Mercedes in just a moment. But this morning's times, if you missed a session, they are on screen, but obviously the drivers have been out on track. So I'll read you... I haven't got a graphic for it, but I will read you the times for this morning. So Sergio Perez topped the morning session with a 117.3, 48 laps for him, half a ton. He was on the C3 tyre with his fastest time. Daniel Ricciardo was also on the C3 tyre. He was second on a 117.7, 41 laps. Alexander Albon on the C2, a 118.1, 59 laps. Pierre Gasly in the Alpha Tauri. He was on the C3 for his fastest lap, 118.165. 77 laps. George Russell, another great morning for Williams. 71 laps for George. C3 tyre, 118.2. Charles Leclerc then came along, C3, 118.3. Lewis Hamilton on the C1, a 118.3. 106 laps for Lewis this morning. Really good running. Romain Grosjean, also some great running. 87 laps in the Haas, C3 tyre, 118.4. Kimi Raikkonen in the Alfa Romeo, 118.5, 65 laps, C3 tyre. And Lando Norris was last, but he ran the C2 tyre, a 118.5 and 48 laps on the board. This afternoon, Esteban Ocon has hopped in the Renault to replace... Who's his teammate? Daniel Ricciardo. There we go. Valtteri Bottas is in for Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes and Sebastian Vettel. He is well enough to take part, which is great news. He will be in that car in place of Charles Leclerc this afternoon. He's already done a 120.5, 4 laps. Bottas a 121.2, already 12 laps on the board. So a busy old morning for Lewis Hamilton. Looks like to be followed by a busy afternoon from Valtteri Bottas. Like I say, we will talk very, very shortly about the... Mercedes DAS wheel thing that they've got. That's as technical as I'm getting today. But we'll better bring in some guests, I suppose, for the afternoon. First of all, he's back. He bailed me out of an absolute mess last year, and I still appreciate it now. Welcome back, Jamie. Good afternoon, mate.
Hello, how are you doing? I'm doing decently. I hope everyone else is, and yeah, looking forward to the stream.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Crazy morning. Loads of technical stuff. I hope you've got your technical head on. I know I haven't. It should be interesting. But yeah, thank you for coming on, mate. It's a pleasure. And also a new voice on the channel, all the way from Canada. He's not travelled, don't worry. It's all over Discord. Good afternoon, or more specifically, good morning to you, Chris, from the Backmarkers F1 show. I got your channel name right. Come on.
Absolutely, yes. Good morning, good afternoon. I was about to say it's morning over here in Canada, but super excited to be with you guys.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I think we spoke briefly over on Twitter a couple of years ago now, probably, about maybe doing something together. So great to finally get you on. I'm kind of just filling there because I just for some reason decided to open Lightroom. You know, why not? We're kicking this stream off in style. Yeah, good stuff. I mean, we've got to kick off with the Mercedes stuff from this morning. Properly interesting. Did you guys see it? I assume you saw it.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it just briefly this morning because obviously while it happened, I was still asleep. But I was looking at it thinking, it looks like Mercedes may be on their way to the 7th World Championship already.
It's certainly the feeling I'm getting. The fact that they've got this new clever suspension at the rear, which Ted Kravitz was getting excited about yesterday, and then you've got this other new innovation, I think they've got to be confident. And they're not even, I kept saying it this morning, they're not even sandbagging. That's what I'm finding weird. Their times are pretty okay, so I think they're confident, but there's a lot of speculation about whether it's safe, whether or not it's legal. Apparently, according to James Allison, and I'm going to read it now, he was asked about the steering wheel trick, and he said, it's a new system, we call it DAS. It opens up additional possibilities and creates a new dimension in steering. It will benefit the driver throughout the season. How it works and why we have it, we keep to ourselves. But it is believed that, and I'll quote him again, this isn't new to the FIA. We're talking to them for some time now. So it is legal, apparently, despite how illegal it actually looks. And GPtoday.net, Fergal messaged me actually about this. They did an interview with Paolo Filicetti. That's a pronunciation for you right there. And he said, I've heard that the FIA has already approved the system, partly because of the fact Mercedes has said we are going to test it right away of holding it back instead of holding it back. So it is a totally legal system. I am going to do some reading in a moment as well, or a little bit later, but that's all the reading I can do for now. From the race, I think Gary Anderson's had his head around it and trying to work out what's going on with that one. So I'll have a read of that during this stream too. But fascinating stuff. But it's legal, Jamie, so we can all stop speculating, and I'm sure this is absolutely the last we're going to hear about it.
Yeah, it reminds me quite a lot of back in the day with the F duct that McLaren bought in for, I think, 2010, where like their system was legal, but then when other teams tried to copy it, they decided that they were then unsafe, so they were banned for 2011. But I'd be surprised if they ban it for this season, having already gone through all the hassle of saying it's legal at this point. But if other teams try and copy it and they end up making stuff where like you got to take a hand off the wheel and something like that, then I can see them banning it for 2021, to be honest.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things they try and close off if it's a massive advantage. Esteban Ocon staring at his car, so that's not a good sign. Problems all day for Renault. Those garage doors have been down about as much as they've been open today. But do you expect to hear a bit more about this come Australia, Chris? Do you think we'll get some protests from the old Scuderia and whatnot?
I think absolutely. I mean, if this new system, if it's legal and if the lap times are representative, and especially if when we get out to the first race in Australia, if they're still able to use this system and are just blowing away the field, I think you'll see protests probably up and down the grid, especially from the likes of Red Bull and Ferrari. But yeah, I don't know. I was reading just a tweet earlier that Racing Point said it would take almost around 6 months to try and copy this system. So it always amazes me with Mercedes just how clever and efficient they are, and just how even though they've won 6 world championships, somehow they just keep getting better. I honestly don't know how they do it.
It is amazing, like you said there, 6 world championships, and they're still finding new things to improve the car.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I can see this all kicking. I think it's going to be one of those things. If we turn up to Australia and it hasn't really made that much of a difference, we'll probably hear nothing else about it. If they turn up to Australia and they're a second and a half a lap quicker than anybody else, it's all kicking off after FP1. Right. Absolutely. But I mean, you've got to give them credit. They're trying new things, but also from a viewer's perspective, this morning was hilarious. You're just watching this onboard, and you're sort of like, oh, we're on board with Lewis, and then all of a sudden he just pulls the steering wheel back, and you go, you what, mate? That's not normal. What are you doing? Yeah. You think, oh, it's faulty, it's broken, and you're just thinking of Kimi Räikkönen and his steering wheel thing, and it's like, oh my God, what's going on? And then pushes it back, and you think, this is weird. But great innovation. I mean, there's some great explanations out there. Definitely go and follow Gary Anderson over on the race. I'm sure you guys know who they are. You should all know who Gary Anderson is as F1 fans.
Yeah,
poor if you don't. But I will. I don't like reading too much from what people read without permission, write without permission, because that's their property, and it's a bit cheeky. But I'm trying to find. There was an explanation of it. I will try and find it for this stream. But also this rear suspension they've got going on the car, that's probably going to lead to a massive improvement as well. This season. That's something Ted Kravitz was very excited about yesterday because it was new. But yeah, we'll talk more about Mercedes as it goes on, because I think it's going to be the main talking point of the next couple of days, I would say. Certainly the main talking point of the first test, the other main talking point of the first test. I know we kind of covered it this morning, but it'd be great to see what you think, Chris, and you as well, Jamie. Your thoughts on the Racing Point and this whole alleged copying of the W10? I mean, I say alleged, it's practically identical. But do you think, from an ethical point of view, is that what we want to see in F1, Chris? Do we want these teams being able to go and buy big parts of these teams' chassis at the front and dominating that midfield?
Yeah, I was joking yesterday that with the testing results, it was a Mercedes 1-2-3 as we finished the day. But I mean, it's hard to ignore how similar it looks. But we're seeing this with other teams in the grid. I mean, I was reading an article just yesterday about Gunter Steiner and the comments that he made that a couple years ago when Haas entered Formula One in 2016, Force India were kind of lodging the same complaint that a lot of their parts were similar to Ferraris and things like that. So we're seeing this already on the grid with Alpha Tauri slash Toro Rosso taking pretty much the whole rear end of the Red Bull from Red Bull Technologies and Haas also using Ferrari parts. So the problem is, and I agree with what Carlos Sainz said too, that these teams like McLaren and maybe the likes of Renault as well, they're going to struggle sometimes if these quote unquote B teams are getting these parts from these big manufacturers like Mercedes or Ferrari that have all this money and development and things like that. So I could definitely see it being a problem if it gets too out of hand. Now, obviously, as we're looking at the timing sheets, of course, Racing Point have put in some decent times so far, but whether that translates into the regular season and the races, and whether they can score some podiums or points finishes, we'll have to see.
What do you think, Jamie? 'Cause, I mean, Rico saying now, why are we all getting upset about Force India stroke Mercedes, but not over Alfa Rosso Red Bull? Love your use of names there. As I remember, people were kicking off when Toro Rosso used to take Red Bull's bits and bobs.
Yeah, especially when Toro Rosso like started getting pretty good, like 08 and 09 almost. Like when they started progressing up from like a bank market team into the midfield solidly, other midfield teams were kicking off and saying like they're just taking Red Bull's parts. That's not right. But I kind of understand it from Force India's point of Racing Point's point of view. Yeah, that's the first one. That they might as well really. Like a couple of years ago, they were complaining about Haas taking Ferrari's parts, and like if you can't beat them, join them. It's still going to catapult them up the championship order, I presume at least. And yeah, it's just they've done a slightly better job of Haas than Haas did because they've actually taken Mercedes parts, which are usually better than Ferrari parts. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But to be fair, the likes of Renault and McLaren, if they can't make a car that's able to beat like last year's Mercedes and Ferrari, then that's kind of their own problem as well.
I think people's concern, and I kind of get it, and I think we can all sort of agree, it's a fair concern, is that we're going to end up with Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull, and then Racing Point, Haas, and AlphaTauri, and then Williams, Renault, and McLaren just doing their own thing and down the back somewhere because they refuse to just buy these parts, which I totally understand. They want to be proper constructors, but I understand the moaning around it, and we did have a lot of it with Toro Rosso and Red Bull. We had a lot of it as well with Haas and Ferrari. People still poke fun at that, but these teams haven't got huge budgets at the minute, although I'd like to think Lawrence Stroll has got more than a bob or two. So I think he should be okay to put some money into Racing Point, but I think they haven't got the huge budgets of the big teams. It's not Martin Brundle at all. I'm lying. Who was it this morning said? I think it was Alex Jakes. It's a bit of a throwaway year this year for a lot of teams like Racing Point because so much focus and money's got to go on next year. So if they can make it cheaper and also build a decent car for this year, or buy parts to build a decent car, then why not? Because, of course, next year, 2021, it's all got to be 100% their own work because there's absolutely no way Mercedes are going to sell Racing Point parts of their, or Aston Martin's, parts of their brand spanking new 2021 car.
Right.
So it's all their own work next year. So kind of a throwaway year. But I mean, what do you reckon, Chris? If you were like a Williams, for example, or a Racing Point, would you totally not write off this year, but just have half an eye on 2020, but pretty much full focus on next year?
Yeah, it's a really good question because I think there's two ways you can come at it. If you're one of these smaller teams like Williams or Racing Point, you could maybe put even more into this year and potentially get one of your best finishes ever in terms of the championship and podiums. Whereas maybe some of the bigger teams will be focusing already on 2021. But I honestly kind of would think that it's going to be more of a throwaway year for these smaller teams like Racing Point and like Williams, especially if in the first couple races we see that they're not really making the progression that they had hoped. I think they'll probably just bin the 2020 car and just focus all their energy into 2021. And like you mentioned with Aston Martin, a Racing Point turning into Aston Martin, they've got a whole nother side of things off track that they're going to have to deal with heading into 2021 with just the whole rebranding and that whole business process of it.
Be interesting to see. I mean, they were talking about this in chat this morning. It'd be interesting to see just how far up the grid Racing Point will be allowed to get with Mercedes' help before Mercedes cut that help away. Because they're not going to want Aston Martin beating them to titles in the future, are they? So that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on. I suppose that's been an argument for a long time. I think Sauber, we had this with Sauber as well, all this B team stuff when they were year-old Ferrari engines and bits of the old Ferrari. So it's not a new argument by any means, but I think it's going to be fascinating. I think it's been really good this morning. Yesterday felt a little bit quiet with testing. Not a huge amount happening, just people literally out there putting in huge amounts of laps, really. 200 odd more than this time last year, which was incredible. Whereas this morning, it's like Mercedes and that have woken up and gone, right, now we're going to show you some stuff. You've got Racing Point falling out with Haas and Haas falling out with Racing Point. And it's only the 20th of February. We're not even in Australia yet and they're all falling out. So I think we're in for a really good season, especially in that midfield. And I think all of these comments been made in the press and whatnot from each of the teams, I do think that's going to set the tone for the season because it's going to be so competitive, sort of fourth place downwards, that they're getting their fighting talk in early, Jamie, and I think on track and off track, it's going to be a cracker. I've just got that feeling, and the championship might be one way, Mercedes might bog off with it, but behind that, it could be brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. And like the likes of Haas and Racing Point, if all they have done is taken last year's Mercedes and Ferrari, then that's not going to get developed that much. I don't feel like. Obviously, they can put small things on it, but it's not going to be a massive development because if they can find half a second on last year's Mercedes, then why couldn't Mercedes find it last year? But maybe the development race will be interesting because you kind of expect Renault and McLaren and even like Alfa Romeo to like improve more throughout the season. But I expect Racing Point to sort of head the midfield for most of it, to be honest. But it'd be very interesting to see how it goes, definitely. But the likes of Perez, I expect to be back to his best almost. He's kind of been hampered by the pace of the car a little bit in the last few years, but what we saw in like 2016, 2017 with him heading that midfield and really annoying the back of the front almost, then I kind of expect him to be back there this season if the car can do that.
I tell you what, that is a really good point on development through the season that I genuinely not even considered. Because is that why they've bought so much of the Mercedes stuff, that they know that car, in theory, with the power unit and if the drivers can turn up and perform, could well be top end of that midfield without doing anything to it. So they've got the car probably for the season, so they can focus on 2021 completely from a development side of things.
Yeah, and with it being such a small team as well, like you don't want to have like half and half focus on this year and on next year. So if they can just have a stock car that they just use throughout the whole season, that would really help them towards 2021, I feel like.
You've got me thinking, Jamie. Don't ever get me thinking. That is not safe. They're just showing replays of it now on Sky Sports. They're going really in depth with it. You don't. They're putting little things on to show you how far he's pulling. You can see how far he's pulling it back. It's not a subtle thing. It's. I should be listening. Really, it's great. This is the thing. I do these things and they're like explaining it really well, and I'm going, I don't know how it works. It's like, well, Will Bucks has just explained it twice. It's like, I'm trying to do a live stream, but yeah, so it's not even a subtle thing. I absolutely love it. Great. It's great to see innovation in F1, especially with the technical regs being so tight. But I'm sure we'll get loads of questions about the old Merc over the course of this stream, so we'll leave it on Mercedes now. They dominated the first stream, and we'll talk about them a little bit later. But I think we need to talk about some other teams. Somebody asked about Ferrari. I don't really know what to say about Ferrari. They're not saying a huge amount, and their pace is kind of just. It's not much at all. 1:18.3 from Leclerc this morning. Vettel are 1:18.6. They're doing, 49 laps for Leclerc isn't anything special when you consider Hamilton did 106. I know Leclerc lost part of the final few minutes of the session, about half an hour probably. They're not flying around. So I think if any team are sandbagging at the moment, I would say, Chris, that it's probably Ferrari, but I've just not really seen, unless you've read something, I've not seen anything particularly special from them, and I've not really seen much in the way of quotes or anything. It's very quiet.
Yeah, and I think that's how it's going to stay. It seems like they're really kind of approaching this preseason testing different from last year, whereas last year they might have been a little bit too confident. But just reading some things on day one from yesterday, they were running really low engine modes and high fuel loads all day. So obviously, we don't really read much into lap times, anyways, but I think Ferrari are kind of going with a different program this time around, maybe testing more reliability. And you also have to remember that they are bringing a major update supposedly in Australia. So I think they're going to try and fly under the radar as much as possible and hope to surprise everybody come the first race in Melbourne.
Just a sign of confidence, almost maybe, or content.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they know something that we don't, and they're just quietly confident, or maybe they're already knowing that it's going to be another difficult season with what they've seen so far with their own car and with Mercedes now with this new whole DAS system. But I know reading in the preseason, you hear things from Italian media that there weren't a lot of whole positives coming out of the Ferrari camp, but you never know who you can believe. So yeah, Ferrari, it's always tough to know, but they've been extremely quiet so far. But I think that might be a calculated move for them.
I think it's obviously lap times in testing are entirely irrelevant, as
Right.
we found out last year. But I think it's the number of laps they've done today. I know they did quite a few yesterday, but like I say, Leclerc 49 this morning, Vettel 11 this afternoon. No, we're not even an hour in yet, but Hamilton did 106 this morning, and Bottas has done 15 already this afternoon. So obviously they've got a new system to test, which could be why they're out there quite so much. But I'm just surprised we're not seeing more of them on track. Whereas then you look at Williams, for example, they're really pumping the laps in. Russell up on 71, over 100 yesterday for them, which is incredible when you think of where they were 12 months ago. I expected to see more from Ferrari, but it's also, is there an argument, I guess, Jamie, for maybe Ferrari don't, Williams are putting these laps in, but Ferrari don't need to put those laps in because they had a relatively decent car last year, whereas Williams need every second on track they can get.
Yeah, and also with Ferrari, maybe they're learning from their mistakes a little bit. Like obviously last year they went out smash testing. They got the testing championship for like the third year in a row, and then completely fell off, or like it just didn't live up to the promise at all. And the car was nowhere when you got to Australia. They finished like a minute off Bottas, I think. So maybe they're learning from that. They don't want to go all out in testing, but the likes of Williams, like obviously their car is also development of last year, but last year's car was horrific. So they want to get as much time as possible. And with Latifi being a rookie as well, he'll want to get as many laps as possible just to build up that experience. And Russell's also only in his second year, and it's probably hopefully his first year driving a semi decent car. So he'll want to get as much time on the board as possible as well. But with Ferrari, they know their car's good. It's got a good baseline, so they're not desperate for all the mileage they can get. But obviously, the more the better, really.
I've not seen any speed trap information yet.
There was
Mainly because I
some
haven't looked, to
earlier
be
on.
honest.
I think Kimi Raikkonen topped it this morning, but I'm not sure. Can't remember the rest of the.
I'm just wondering how Ferrari are performing in there, because obviously last year their straight line speed raised a few eyebrows. Then it got deemed apparently legal, but then there was some question marks over it and loopholes were closed off for this year, and suddenly it got slower again. I'm not insinuating anything for a second, but it is suspicious. So I'm just wondering how they were doing in a straight line. But I suppose if Raikkonen's topping it, less drag as well, maybe pretty tasty. I mean, the Ferrari's always pretty good in a straight line, but I'm intrigued by them this year. And how much
Yeah,
of
the,
that?
the speed trap from this morning, Leclerc was actually bottom of it by like 14 kilometers an hour, but that
Oh wow!
seems like they were just doing long run pace, definitely, because there's no way they're that slow in a straight.
You'd hope not. From Ferrari's point of view, it's about all they had last year at times. But I think they'll be an intriguing team this season. Then they're going to be going for the title. I know Leclerc's been talking about being happy to wait until 2021 for the title, which again raised a few eyebrows. Made people think, oh, hang on a minute, maybe these stories about the car being terrible are true. But I think they'll be in a title hunt this year. But I think they've got to be at least second. I mean, if Ferrari end up third this year, it's a disaster. It sounds so silly, doesn't it? Third in the championship for a team is a disaster, but for Ferrari, they can't be third. They've got to be challenging Mercedes this year. It's the final year of this era of F1. We're going into 2021. That they've got to put up a fight. 2017, first half of the season, they're in it. It all falls away. Same in 2018. 2019, they're rubbish at the start, really, let's be honest. And then they really pick up in the second half. They've just got to put those two halves together. It sounds so easy, doesn't it, on paper? Come on, Ferrari, that's my advice. All you need to do is put your two halves together,
Yeah.
and you might be able to challenge. I just want a three-way team fight at the front. That's all I want. And then a great midfield fight.
Yeah, I think that's a consensus among all the fans.
Yes.
Even if Mercedes were to win the seventh one, but if it comes down to the final race in Abu Dhabi and there's 3, 4 drivers going for it, we just want the close championship. We haven't had one in a couple of years, but I would almost make the argument that even if Ferrari finished second, it would still be a disappointment. I mean, it's been since 2008 they haven't won a championship. I believe they were constructors champions in 2008. Haven't won a drivers championship obviously since 2007. And like you mentioned, they've been so close the last couple of years. 2018 arguably had the best car on the grid and they still blew it. So they've been disappointing their fans year after year after year. So if you're a Ferrari fan, you got to kind of wonder if it's not this year, then how long are you going to have to wait before you get to be able to fight and win world championships again? It's been quite a long time for them.
It has. I mean, they came out of that era, didn't they? 2000 to 2000. Well, I mean, 99 if you include the constructors title. 99 to end of 2004 with all those titles, and then 2005 a rough old year. 2006 back in the hunt with Schumacher. Then they win it with Raikkonen. So that's kind of like this era where Ferrari are constantly fighting for titles, and then it goes quite. Yeah, they nearly did it in 2008 with Massa for the drivers' title, but 2009 was a disaster. 2010.
They really should have won it in 2010. Apart from that awful strategy call in Abu Dhabi, some things had to change. But yeah, like 2010 was a bit like very close, but then they messed it up themselves. 2012, Alonso drove out of his skin and still almost won it, but not quite. The car wasn't really there that season, and since then, the car's never really been there. 2017, you might be able to argue that it could have been, but for all the mistakes that Vettel made, but I don't think it was. I think second half of the season, especially Mercedes sort of had the edge on them in 2017, but then since then, obviously we know what's happened. Nothing really close enough to challenge for the title.
When you think about it, just you saying there, should have won 2010. If Bruno Senna had hit Sebastian Vettel in the right way, would have won in 2012. They were in the fight in 17 and 18. So the opportunities have been there. But I think the problem for them is that Mercedes are just, like you said, Chris, just such a well-oiled machine. Everybody's pulling in the same direction. And that is the difference between Mercedes and Ferrari, and they're able to come up with these nice new ideas and build a really good car. And they've got probably, here we go, probably the best driver on the grid. Waiting for it, chat. Don't you dare. But yeah, probably the best driver on the grid. So that they are the team to beat always. But Ferrari need to get everybody working together. And I think Binotto, he is doing a better job than Arriva Bene was in that respect at keeping everybody happier and working better together. He just needs to hope his drivers don't come to blows too much in that team this year. But I think I'm positive for them. But there's always that. I don't know about you guys, I know chat will be the same, but there's always that little air of uncertainty at which Ferrari you're going to get before a season. The last few years, their strategists just haven't bothered to do anything right. I mean, when they're on the radio going, we're on plan F, and it's lap 3, you're like, oh, come on. you can't be that bad at this, surely.
Yeah, and early season last year when they were just swapping drivers every 5 laps for seemingly no reason.
Right.
And what was all that in Russia?
Yeah.
Well, and this is the thing with Ferrari is that when Ferrari comes out in races, not only are they battling the likes of Red Bull and Mercedes, they're also racing against themselves at times. Whereas when you look at Mercedes, like you said, they're just a well-oiled machine, and you can't count on Mercedes to beat themselves because it will rarely happen. I mean, Germany 2019 was maybe one of the instances you can think where they kind of beat themselves and made mistakes, but everywhere else they're just there every weekend. Even if they're not winning races, they're doing the right things just to score those points and be in the championship. Whereas, yeah, like you guys mentioned with Ferrari, you're at plan F sometimes, and if you're as confused as the viewer watching at home, I'm sure the drivers are even more confused as to what the team is doing, and they've lost a lot of races just with poor strategy calls.
And for a team of that experience, they've been around since, not day one, because they didn't take part in the first race, but they've been around since the first season, and it's like, they've got all that experience, you just don't expect it. But then, like you say, Germany last year for Mercedes, you didn't expect that from them, and that was an absolute shocker. I mean, that I'm looking forward to in Drive to Survive. That's going to be good.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you very much to Armands over on PayPal for your contribution. Massively appreciated. If you do donate through PayPal, please do pop a little message, even if it's just to say hello. It's always good to read that out. And I was just thinking, Jamie, actually, in the lunch break, I got that really generous £100 donation from Aquila. But last year, when I was streaming with you. We got that £500 donation, didn't we? And it
I do
kind of
remember that,
absolutely
actually.
blew my bloody mind. I just remember you going, do you want to deal with that? It's like, yeah.
I'll leave that to you. I've only got 300 subs, so that's your responsibility.
So yes, the record is 500. I'm not saying try and beat it. I mean, if you want to, feel free, of course. But yeah, thank you very much again to Akila for that, and to, I can't remember his name now, from last year, who did that. It's been a year. I've slept at least twice since then. So yes, massively appreciate it. I think we just had another one through as well. I'll take some comments and questions from chat in a moment, rather than just wandering through teams. Robert McPhee, I know that name. Bit of a regular. Thank you very much for your contribution as well. And I think we got a question in actually via super chat. No, I didn't want to do that on my phone. Oh my god, what have I done? Anyway, just put the phone down, Sean. You're streaming. Stop looking at things. Let's have a look at what that one was. I think it was about Pirelli. Yes. How do tyres work for testing? Do Pirelli just bring 1,000 sets and hope they don't run out, or do the teams have to tell them in advance about which tyres they want to for each test? I thought, genuinely, yesterday it was a free-for-all. I thought Pirelli just bought a ton of tyres and the teams could pick and choose. But apparently, what was the number yesterday, chat? If you were with me yesterday, was it 20 sets each for testing? Someone's going to tell me in chat. I'm going to wait and make it look like I know everything. But yeah, I thought it was a free-for-all, was what I believed. But I think it was about 20, something like that. So they get a number, more than a race weekend. That's for sure. So plenty of tyres to run around on. But a lot of them, they put a set of tyres on it, because it's not about lap times, Chris. It doesn't matter, does it? They could put a set of hards on and trundle around all day to get all the aero data they need.
Right. Yeah, and we didn't see too many teams. I think Racing Point kind of just did some short stints on the softer tire, but none of the big teams went out with the soft tire yesterday. So we probably won't see that for another couple of days, maybe until the last couple sessions next week. So yeah, just quickly looking at the tire situation, looks like most of the teams just went out on the hard so far in this afternoon session. So is it 20 sets? Yeah, it is 20 sets that they brought. Yeah.
So plenty to get through. Romain Grosjean, by the way, has gone through 105 laps now. He's another one that's been quiet. He's not crashed or anything. Which is incredible.
Wow, surprising, yeah.
But he's been quietly getting on with it in 105 laps. Where for some reason on the TV we're watching Jolyon Palmer doing a lap back in what must be 2017, 16.
I don't know, I'm about 40 seconds behind, so I'll tell you in a minute.
I think I'm the same. I'm still on a Raikkonen on board.
Yeah, me too.
I looked up, I was like, oh, Renault have gone yellow. Oh no, that's a completely different car. But yeah, showing an onboard of Jolyon Palmer for some reason. The steering wheel is only moving left and right. It's not been pulled out and pushed forward. You'll be pleased to know.
Yeah, it's 2017.
I don't know why we're watching Jolyon Palmer. This is...
He's become a really big... I don't know if you call him YouTube personality or TV personality with Formula One. He's got his own tech analysis series and everything. So he kind of came out of nowhere.
It's weird because I wasn't keen on him as a driver.
Yeah.
Because he was rubbish.
But as a pundit, he's actually quite good.
Very good.
I'm glad you said it, not me.
I'm used to saying stuff like that. I think regulars to the channel think I just hate everybody. It's like I don't, honestly. But I just wasn't a fan. But he's a good pundit. He's got some good tech analysis, and he's a bit like, he's a toned down Nico Rosberg. He's not afraid to say what he thinks, but he's also got a bit of something to back it up as well.
Right.
So I like him now.
I don't think Fernando still. I think he still doesn't like him.
Yeah, Jolyon Palmer he's just got him flashed him. He's got like a bottom button undone. And he's flashing his belly. I mean, we don't need to see this. Come on, it's nice to look in the commentary box and say, cool faces to names and whatnot, but we want to see what's going on track. Never mind. I said this morning, loving having Alex Jakes as well in a commentary.
He's a great commentator, and I think he'll make it to F1 at some point.
Get Davide in there for testing. Really, really get people excited for it. That'd be great. Tyre-wise, out on track at the moment. Perez is on the C2, which is a hard tyre. Ricciardo isn't obviously out at the moment. Albon last went out on the C2. Gasly's out there on the C3. if this is correct. Raikkonen's on the C3. Norris on the C2. He's getting some laps in now. He's a bit quiet this morning. 85 now. So that's good news. Good for McLaren. But yeah, I'll put it to you guys. I've been asking everybody when they come on. We'll go to Jamie first. Put you right on the spot. Have you got a favourite livery so far out of the new cars? I know some haven't changed much at all, but some look pretty nice.
I actually like the new McLaren quite a bit. Obviously, it's not changed dramatically, but I do like it quite a bit. I like the AlphaTauri. I feel like it's a little bit. People are just very excited about it because it's new, but it'll get old pretty quickly. I feel like it's just black and white at the end of the day. But I'd like the new McLaren quite a lot.
What about you, Chris? What do you reckon? Favourite livery thus far? They might change again yet. Who knows?
Yeah, seriously. For me, it definitely has to be Alpha Tauri. And I agree, partly because it's new and it's something different. But immediately when I saw it, it kind of gave me an old school Williams BMW feel. Especially when I saw the race suits as well. And Ralph Schumacher actually used to be my favorite driver when I was growing up. So that was kind of like a nice little throwback. But I'll tell you what, I actually do like the Williams livery. I know a lot of people were making toothpaste references and
Yeah.
memes out of the car, and I definitely see it. But I actually like I like their livery. It's fresh, no pun intended, and it's pretty good. So I like it. But pretty much all the teams I like their liveries, with the exception of Mercedes and Ferrari and kind of Red Bull, because they really didn't change much. So, but yeah, I like all the other teams as well.
I've always been a fan of the Red Bull livery, so the fact it's not changed, I don't mind because I quite like it. It's distinctive. I think what I like about the AlphaTauri is that even when they changed to that lighter blue and the silver, it was still a Red Bull B car. Whereas in terms of the way it looked, just the impression I got from it, whereas although they still are, they've just got a different name, the livery looks completely different to the Red Bull one. So they're going to stand out a bit more as their own team. But I just like the fact it's clean, it's slick. And you've said there about the Williams BMW. It's really weird. I don't know why. I think it's the livery and just the shape of the car. One of my favourite cars of all time is the 2000 Williams. And that livery
Yes.
reminds me of that so much. And I love it. But I agree. McLaren's got a nice livery. And I put Williams second on my list of liveries. And that was apparently a really unpopular opinion.
Really?
I think Annette poked fun at me as well. I think Annette was one of them. A few people in the comment section to that, because I said it was quite patriotic. They'd gone red, white, and blue, and then some people were being serious and some were being Larry, like Annette, and they were sort of going, "Oh, patriotic to who? Do you know how many countries have red, white, and blue?" It's like, yeah. Do you know how many countries Williams are from? One. But anyway, but yeah, I love that Williams livery, and it is fresh. Very good, Chris. I'll give you that. Yeah, it is very fresh. I like that a lot.
I would like to change my answer though, because I remembered that Alfa Romeo exists. So that would be my favorite overall. I really like that livery. It's so
There's
good.
another one.
Jonty said it this morning. All they've done in that livery is put the Polish sponsor on, and then stuck the red stripes on instead of the blue, and made one of them a bit thicker. But I mean, I've always liked that since they've gone to Alfa Romeo. I've always liked the way they go with the sort of part red and white car. I think that looks nice and tidy.
Yeah, definitely.
Their
But
race
yeah.
suits are absolutely gorgeous this year. I thought last year's were amazing, but they somehow one upped it this year. So their race suits are really nice.
I think we've got some good looking cars. And the thing is with Mercedes and Ferrari and Red Bull is, apart from a bit of candy apple red, whatever you want to call it, on the Mercedes, not really anything's changed. The Ferrari, apart from the odd venture into a blue and white car or whatever, it's essentially the same livery they've had since the 50s. It's just red. Bottas going for a spin, just catching that. The final chicane. Seen quite a few getting it wrong on the entry to and the exit of the final chicane. Or not quite the final chicane, to be fair. It's the corner before, whatever you want to call that one. But yeah, he's just turning in. And it doesn't matter how many times you pull the steering wheel, you're not stopping that from spinning. Yeah, we've seen Bottas doing that. For anybody who's not seen the footage, by the way, he is doing that with the steering wheel as well. It's a fascinating stuff. But spin for Bottas. So that's Max Verstappen had at least 2 yesterday. Bottas won today. Magnussen nearly stuck it in the wall yesterday afternoon. Gasly had a moment this morning at turn 9 as well. But we've still not had a red flag. What is going on?
That's impressive.
I feel like it also helps that all of the drivers pretty much are at the same teams, apart from like Ocon and Latifi. And there's nothing really to learn that much about the new cars, barring like Williams, you could argue, but like they're pretty much carrying on from where they left off. Like they're not going to be surprised by that much, so there's not really much leeway for mistakes. And it's good that we've got a red flag, because otherwise it'd be very difficult to fill the stream for a bit.
You've kind of also got like the cars have been running for a year now. These are just evolutions of last year's cars. So and the Racing Point is just last year's Mercedes. So they all know that they're reliable.
Yeah.
They don't need to push them as much because the data's not going to be as vital this year as it was last year with the regulation changes. But I still think that they're not pushing as hard because they know that they've got 2 fewer days of testing this year, so they can't afford to lose a session with a car in the wall. So just keep it off the curbs a little bit, take it a bit more easy, and that's maybe why we're not seeing quite so many incidents. But I'm pleased, Jamie, that you brought up Esteban Ocon.
Oh, here we go.
I really am. How you feeling, mate? Are you missing him, Nico?
I'm over it. I'm over it. It's fine. He's enjoying his life now. So yeah, I hope he comes back, but I'd be surprised. I'm not too annoyed at Ocon. I'm more annoyed at Alfa Romeo and Haas that didn't pick him up. But yeah, whatever. We'll move on.
Well, I give Grosjean stick, but I like the guy. I said this yesterday, and I do like K-Mag. I think I'm in a minority with that. I do really like K-Mag. But I think Gio did good in the second half of last year, and Kimi is Kimi Räikkönen. But I'd still, when Renault made their decision that Hulkenberg wasn't staying on, and I looked at that Haas lineup, I just thought he sits very nicely there, does Hulkenberg? I think he'd be
completely.
perfect.
And also, after the Haas announced theirs quite early, I was thinking like, realistically, Giovinazzi is never going to get in the Ferrari. He's 26 already. Like that seat obviously is Ferrari's seat. They have first refusal on it, but Kimi is most likely going to leave at the end of the season. They put Hulkenberg in for Giovinazzi now. Then Hulkenberg learns the team for a year. Then 2021, they stick in whoever, Schumacher or Schwartzman or Armstrong, whoever they want to pick in, stick in. And he's got someone who knows the team, experienced driver, still got a few years left in him to learn from. And then their rookie Ferrari driver has an experienced driver to learn from, while the experienced driver already knows the team. Because whoever they replace Kimi with is obviously going to have to learn the team himself. And then, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a mess if they have to change both drivers next year. But we'll wait and see.
I think I get their argument of continuity. I think the problems
completely.
they had, it made sense to like stick with Magnussen and Grosjean for continuity, but you also want experience. And I still think as well, and I do this with some of my videos, when I did my point swap, I was quite happy with it, but I sent it to Jonty to watch because I was like, I just think sometimes a fresh pair of eyes can help see problems and mistakes that maybe others aren't. So Grosjean and Magnussen have been there for a while. Hulkenberg might have got in that car and gone, well, your problem's that. And they go, oh, how did we not see that? And then all of a sudden you solved one of your problems.
And he's been with a bigger team, effectively. Renault are a bigger team than Haas. And you saw it with Ricciardo when he came from Red Bull to Renault. He was like, we did this at Red Bull, you should do that here. Like, if someone from Renault goes into Haas and says, like, you're not doing this right, that can help improve the team. And obviously, like, also, they say we want continuity. Like, Grosjean could tell us what the problems are. If he has been doing that, why he still got all the problems now? Like, he's obviously not been doing a great job. So, I don't know.
It's I mean, look,
I can rant about it all day. So
I think even as a big Hulkenberg fan, though, I think even surely you'd admit that it's not like he hasn't had the opportunities.
Oh yeah. And like, I'll admit his season last year was not fantastic. I think he finished like 13th in the championship or something. Obviously, luck helped, or bad luck helped quite a bit. But obviously, there were quite a lot of times when he was like on for a good result and then did put it in the wall himself. But the likes of Singapore 2017 still hurt quite a lot for me. But yeah, and Brazil 2012, of course. But we'll move on. It's what could have been. But I'm sure he'll have a nice time now.
I did think about you when he stuck it in the wall in Germany.
Yeah, I couldn't move on for about 2 weeks after that.
I think there was I could almost hear a collective no from the F1 fan base when that camera just flicked to Hulkenberg. You're like, no,
and desperately trying to get it out the wall. It was very heartbreaking.
Like, no, man. Oh, that was your opportunity. And like things like Brazil 2012 when he was leading and could have won that race or at least been on the podium. I don't hold that against him quite so much. That's only really his second full season in F1. He was still young at that point. Mistakes happen. He'd not led an F1 race before. The pressure's there. But when you get to that experience in that situation, then at the same, I don't know. At the same time, though, Chris, to be fair to Nico, everybody was going off track in Germany. Even Hamilton hit that wall, managed to keep going. So, I mean, it was a lottery that day.
Yeah, I think that was a missed opportunity, but I would agree. I think something more like Singapore 2017, which was just bad luck, was kind of the story of his career. Yeah, Brazil, 2012, he was still young at that time, so a lot of missed opportunities. But I also was pretty surprised that Haas kept Roman Grosjean. I really thought that they were going to replace him at the end of this year, and I was most concerned for Gunter Steiner's health after they re-announced Roman Grosjean for another season. I mean, dude, man, I can't wait to see him in Netflix this year and the reactions that he's gonna have. I know Grosjean didn't have as many mistakes last year as he did in 2018, but I honestly could say I was quite surprised when they re-signed him. But I guess that they couldn't necessarily afford the contract that Nico Hulkenberg wanted, so they just stuck with the same lineup.
I think the Drive to Survive is going to be great. And the one I'm really looking forward to is Silverstone.
Really?
Because Gunther Steiner's reaction to that, with those two colliding, if you think of how he was last year with them two not colliding, just falling out, it's going to be pretty epic. I mean, Germany's going to be a great episode. The Williams episode will be really good. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And I think, I think. I mean, it's the problem is, my worry with this is, as much as we love Gunther Steiner, Drive to Survive is just going to become the Gunther Steiner show. They should make the Gunther Steiner show. Oh my God.
Yeah, he should have his own podcast.
Forget a Friends reunion. That's what we want. The Gunther Steiner show. It could be a sitcom, I don't mind. I'm not bothered. But yeah, I think that'd be brilliant. Or his own chat show. Yeah, that would be good. Oh, if only Netflix watched these things. I may have to write a letter like the old days. I don't know why I'd write a letter, but let's move on quickly before I expose my age again. Alex Albon out on track at the moment. We'll do a rundown of the times, actually. We're 20 past 2, sat here waffling about Hulkenberg and Netflix and Gunther Steiner. 2 hours and 42 minutes to go. Perez, I don't think these times are going to change too much from this morning. So Perez still fastest from this morning, 17.3, 76 laps now. Ricciardo 17.7, 41 laps. Albon 18.1, 62 laps. Gasly an 18.1 as well on 92 laps, 77 laps now for Sergio Perez. Albon nice and wide out of turn 9 there. Russell 118.2, 71 laps. Charles Leclerc 118.3, 49 laps. 106 for Hamilton this morning on a 118.3. Vettel's already done 20 laps, so he's getting out there for Ferrari, taking their total to 69. Grosjean 118.4, 107 laps. Raikkonen 118.5, 87 laps. Norris 118.5 as well, 93 laps. Ocon 118.7, 11 laps. And Bottas 23 laps on a 21.2. So Mercedes are through 100. I'd like to think Vettel can do enough this afternoon to take Ferrari through 100. Haas are through 100. Kimi's 13 off doing that. Norris only needs another 6 to hit 100. Williams, Russell still in the pits, concerningly. 71 laps, not been out yet from what I can see. You'd think that if everything's okay, he should get through 100. Red Bull, maybe a tall order for Albon, maybe not. 63, still all afternoon to go. And Ricciardo did 41 and whatever Ocon's done, so 52. So we might get most teams through 100 laps again today. I mean, I couldn't believe it yesterday, to be honest, Chris, that we saw every team put 100 laps plus on the board. That was such a surprise.
Yeah, it was a really efficient day yesterday. I mean, typically, especially on the first day of testing, you either get a car that breaks down or a team that has problems. But even Ferrari, they spent quite a bit of time adjusting the rear suspension, and they still got out and got over 100 laps. So yeah, really efficient from all the teams. And personally, it was great to see Williams yesterday come out on track first, put in all those laps, and kind of put the last season behind them. So yeah, I'm impressed with all these teams and be able to do continuous running, and it's great for us as well because we get to see action on the track.
Uh, Kimoa asked me to refresh Streamlabs. I'm glad I did. Thank you very much for your contribution, mate. I think you sent me one yesterday as well, so thank you for that too. So just realised that the Renault has teamed up with Nimbus Racing Broom Company from Harry Potter. That is why the RS20's nose looks like a Nimbus 2001. Very good. I love the Harry Potter reference. I'm a sad old man. I love Harry Potter. The
That might have been
TV
faster than
series,
last year's car.
TV film. Well, to be fair, yeah. I mean, wasn't a good year for Renault at all, was it? I mean, Jamie touching there on a poor year for Hulkenberg, but a team that were on about challenging for podiums at one point. I mean, come on. They were nowhere near, were they? I mean, all right, yeah, you could argue Germany, but Fiat was there. Stroll led the race briefly.
I think the only good races really were Canada and Monza, like very good races. You could argue Bahrain until 2 laps from the end, but yeah, Renault need to pick themselves up. Like usually they were barely in Q3 for the most part of the season, and then when it sort of all came together towards like mid-end of the season, then people realized that they were cheating. So it wasn't brilliant. So yeah, hopefully they do better. Although if they come out and have like the third fastest car, I'll be slightly annoyed. But that's just my own personal view.
So the thing is, though, like people poke fun, don't they? At these claims of 1,000 horsepower, and I know that the lack of drag on that car is going to be a contributing factor as well. But the fact they were quick and had good weekends at Monza and at Canada tells you there is some power in there. And then if they can get the chassis right, which I think is why McLaren did so well last year as well, because they did get the chassis pretty right. If Renault can do that, they should be up there.
Yeah, and we saw Monza as well. They pretty much outpaced Red Bull like all weekend. They finished 4th and 5th ahead of both the Red Bull cars, and obviously Vettel had his issues. So if they can just sort out a good car other than the engine, then they're in a good place. But we'll have to wait and see if they can do that.
You'd hope that they can't. I mean, they can't be beaten, but if they get beaten by Racing Point, who have bought most of their car from Mercedes, let's say Haas get their tyre issues right and they beat Renault, and McLaren beat them as well, a customer. I mean, that would be.
That's like P7 in the championship, then that's outrageous.
That'd be disastrous. They should be fourth every. No offense to McLaren in that, but they are. I know McLaren are a sort of a proper constructor, aren't they? But I mean, as a manufacturer, a manufacturer that were pushing for these 2014 changes to make the cars more road relevant and all that. With their resources, they should be topping that midfield every season, but they're just not, and they're frustrating. And I can't. How frustrated must Ricciardo be leaving Red Bull? Obviously, the Verstappen effect there. I think he realised that he was not going to be number one, and if he wanted to be number one, he'd have to move on. But Honda are coming in. He's got his doubts about that. He goes to Renault thinking, "Hey, at least I know the Renault power unit." Honda smash it, and Renault are nowhere. He must be fuming.
Yeah, you'd imagine so. And obviously, people seem to think that he's suddenly a bad driver just because the car is nowhere near good enough, which I still think Ricciardo is like top 4 drivers on the grid. I would put him. The Renault really still themselves out. Obviously, Ricciardo had nothing much to lose because he was never really going to win a title with Verstappen as his teammate. So, realistically, once you had plenty of wins and podiums, coming 5th and 6th every week isn't much difference from coming like 10th and 11th each week, really. So, I'm sure he's getting a healthy paycheck as well, to be fair. So he's probably quite happy with that.
Do we know what his salary was? I know there's rumours. Sort of
it was
40 million.
3rd highest, I think, on the grid. Maybe 4th behind Verstappen as well, but I can't remember. It was very high, though.
I think it was like close to 30 million euros a year.
I
Wow.
remember
the Drive to Survive episode where it was like the Renault announced him. You remember Christian Horner saying like, "Have you got enough money to develop your car after what you're paying on your driver?" So maybe that was true. They didn't have any money for the car last year.
I don't buy into that about Ricciardo. I think Ben from Late Breaking was on one of these last year, and he said recency bias is a big problem in F1. So Ricciardo has a bad season, suddenly he's crap in a lot of people's eyes, and then Bottas 2.0 rocks up and he's the best driver in the world, but actually people forget that 2018 he had a really poor year, given that he's driving the best car on the grid. So I think the whole Vettel thing, he's had a rough couple of years, but he was competitive in 17 and 18. He was probably the closest challenger outside of a Mercedes to Lewis Hamilton. I mean, he wasn't he? He was second in the championship. So
yeah.
He's still got it. But because he hasn't won a title since 2013, he's had a rough few years, people are like, oh, he's terrible. It's like, he's not terrible. I said it yesterday. Seb's still got something to give.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that F1 fans kind of have short memories at times, and as soon as a driver has a bad race, he's the worst driver ever, and a team should replace him. But like going back to Ricardo, yeah, I agree. I think he's a world class driver, one of the best on the grid. I mean, we don't have to think back too far. If you remember China 2018, the moves that he pulled off, obviously at Monaco, and yeah, I think Vettel as well. I think that he's gonna hopefully have a bounce back season, but he's still, I mean, world championship material. He's still got all the skills. And if Ferrari have adjusted their car to fit more of Vettel's driving style, I think we're going to really see the old Vettel come through, because it seems like that's really been his problem the last couple of years. But guys like Vettel, guys like Ricardo, even though they have struggled maybe a little bit as of late, they're still top four on the grid, no question.
Yeah, 100%. Somebody just said, Nicholas in chat just saying, Sean, have you seen the Mark Parisi video discussing Mercedes steering column? I haven't, mate. I haven't had opportunity to. First of all, I didn't know he had. I'm doing these as well, so I'm not going to go off and abandon you all to watch a video. It is tempting though, because I really want to know what's going on with that steering. But I will put it on my list for tonight. I've got a couple of things I want to watch tonight that people have recommended, and a channel to check out as well. So I'll do that tonight after the streams, because I talk about F1 all day, and then I still manage to find time to watch stuff about F1 as well. It's all I got. It's all I've got. But I think on the F1 fan base, what I want to say before I go and get some comments from chat. Obviously, I spend a lot of time on social media. I see you about on Twitter, Jamie. I'm sure you do
plenty
as
of
well,
time.
Chris. I think we have to as well, because I find this with I did a Lewis Hamilton video a couple of years ago, Why Is He So Hated? And I got sucked into that everybody seems to hate Lewis Hamilton, but that was a snapshot of Twitter. And I might even go and pin a comment on there actually to say that at the time I felt like that was the case. Whereas I think we have to remember that my comment sections, for example, or our comment sections as YouTubers, and what the people are saying on Twitter is not the general consensus of the F1 fan base. That is the vocal minority, and actually there are millions of people across the world watching this sport who probably have no issue whatsoever with Lewis Hamilton, or still think Vettel is a great driver. They just don't go out and tell people that because they don't need to. They don't feel they need to. So it's sometimes I feel as a creator I have to try and remember that Twitter is not the source of knowledge and information that people seem to think it is, or people seem to think they are. That's
You
not
see
the
it with
general
anything, though.
consensus.
Like not only F1, you see it with any sport.
Oh,
like
yeah, it's not just
we saw it a
F1.
bit with the election as well. Not going to get into that, but like you see anything that people have opinions on, the opinions are massively blown out of the water on Twitter, like blown up to beyond what they should be, and you can find yourself like thinking that Twitter's the mass opinion, but it's just not at all.
No.
Twitter should have a login at your own risk prompt before you get into it. And yeah, I've been noticing it too. You know, just I got my own personal Twitter account, and then obviously our channel Twitter account. And yeah, you just see sometimes the tweets and stuff, and you go, oh boy, you know, I'm just gonna keep scrolling there because I don't want to dive into what else this person has to think. But I mean, the majority of the F1 community is pretty positive. Like just reading some of the comments on this chat and some of the comments that we get on our channel as well. Like most people are either positive or have really good opinions, but it's always the ones that are negative that are going to bother you and that get the most attention. So it's just the best sometimes to ignore those people. But I really do enjoy interacting with the F1 fans and just differing opinions. And sometimes they'll open your eyes to an opinion that maybe you didn't even think of, but you read the comment and you go, oh, you know, I didn't think of that, but thanks for the comment. That was actually really knowledgeable. So yeah, you too much negativity on Twitter though. I try and limit the
Yeah.
time on there.
Kimi Räikkönen having a spin, same place as Bottas did, coming out that corner before the final chicane. But yeah, Twitter's a really depressing place sometimes, quite frankly. It really is. But do you know, actually from a YouTube perspective, before I will come to chat, don't worry, but the comments that are the most annoying for me, or the most frustrating in some ways, are like somebody will make a really brilliant point, and you'll go, wow, that is really well worded. I completely genuinely agree. I think that's a great point of view. Let's have a chat about it. But they either start with a message with or end it with, but you're a dickhead. And you're like, well, I'm not going to talk to you now, am I? You've just put a really great comment out, but you've insulted me kicking it off. And it's like, I'm just not even going to talk to you now. But
Right.
Thank you for the comment. They frustrate the life out of me. At least let me read it and then call me one. Do you know what I mean? It's not
Well, we
good.
just had it. We just had it recently too on our channel. Like we were lucky enough to get an interview with Nicholas Latifi a couple of weeks ago, just before the preseason started. and we had a great chat with him. He said a lot of interesting things, but the comments that we were getting are all like pay driver comments, and people are talking more about his sponsors and his money than they are about him as a driver and the things that he said. And I mean, we were just laughing about it with me and my co-host because it's just like, man, I mean, some people it's that's just more important to always hate on somebody instead of appreciate their skill or their talent in a driver like Latifi or something else. So yeah, it's just funny, man. People are sometimes really hilarious, not in a good way though.
No. Oh no! If you've not seen the Latifi interview, actually, definitely go check it out. Links to Jamie's channel and to the F1 Back Marcus show is down below as well. I keep having to pause before I say your channel, Chris, because on next Thursday
I
I've got
know.
the F1 debate show on, and I keep getting them muddled up when I'm trying to say this. It's like the Back Marcus F1 show.
Yeah,
There we go.
we're trying to get to a point where the brand will just shorten the acronym and just call it the TBMF1 show. That's what we're trying to go for because it is a little bit of a handful. So, but I appreciate that.
It genuinely is a good podcast. I remember I think I'm subscribed to you with my personal account. I don't subscribe to anything with my F1 Word account, but I have with my personal account, so I always keep an eye out. And the Latifi interview was really good, and I enjoyed that. So good banter, good fun, and knowledgeable as well. So definitely worth checking out. And Jamie's awesome too. You are. I don't know what to say. A lot of gaming stuff on there. But actually, I'll tell you what, actually, Jamie, before I do my super chats and that, I'm going to put this to you. Me and John this morning were discussing F1 2019, and we both agree that either you are, because of the way it handles, I play on a pad and he does as well, but because of the way it handles and the way the game works with the AI, you're either insanely brilliant and you dominate everything, or you're absolute trash when it comes to career mode. And I don't know if that's just because we're terrible.
I have played no career mode this year at all. So yeah, I need to do online, and I've got a wheel, so I can't really compare how the pad plays. But online, I enjoy it a lot. It could be better. I feel like there's quite a few issues with the like the way that races tend to go online, especially like when the grid is so close, it just sort of goes into like slipstream chains and not really goes for any interesting moves. So it can get a little bit boring, but I do league racing for fun. So it's all right. I do enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to the next game coming out, especially. Hopefully it'll be a little bit better. But yeah, go and check out my channel if you want to see league racing done quite badly. Then yeah, there's plenty of videos over there for you to watch.
I'm gonna go subscribe right now.
Oh, what a legend!
And can I? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I
You're
just
right.
wanted to say a shout out to the F1 word as well, and the F1 community. I know you reached out to me in the very beginning when we started our channel, and I just think that it's great when we can all kind of come together and help each other out. And one of us comes on the other show, and another goes on the other one, and we just all kind of come together as a community, and instead of all the hate that we see on the Twitter and the YouTube comments. I just think that's a great thing because at the end of the day, we all just love Formula One, and that's why we're doing this. So let's just have a good time.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, thank you. I needed that actually. Somebody got in touch the other day to tell me that I need to do more for the F1 YouTube community. I was like, more?
I think you do quite enough.
I go back if you want. I'll go back and list some guests. We had Chaz on. That was one of the first. We had Ryan Littlemore, Ryan L83, Alex Zaffro, Chamber. I keep saying Stewart, Dan, Aldas, obviously Chris and Jamie today. We've got Jess on tomorrow. Who else? I had loads on. Ellie was on. I think she came onto a stream once as well. Arav, just forget Arav casually there. Why not? He's been on. So yeah, I've loads of people on. It's not a promotion thing. I don't do it for any gain. I do it because I'm like you say, Chris. I just love sitting down and talk about F1, and if I can get others involved, then I will do. So I don't care if somebody's got 1 subscriber or 1 million subscribers. You love F1, I love F1. Let's talk crap for 3.5 hours. I'm quite happy with that. But yes, thank you very much for your contributions. Dan the Indoor Man, thank you for becoming a channel member and for becoming about the 6th person to remind me I need to do something for memberships. And I seem to think I said this last year as well. I've done nothing in terms of, I will try and do it before the start of the season for emotes and whatnot. So thank you very much, Dan, for becoming a member and for your contributions. An earlier one at 1:48 p.m. What the hell is going on with Ferrari? Williams seem faster, and give me a bloody wrench. LMAO from Danny and Dorman as well. I will get you a thingy sorted, I promise. And also to Justin, thank you for yours. Says Grosjean 110 laps without a crash. Is this a record? Dan's not here. We could be nice to Grosjean today. It's fine. We'll wind him up next week. But yeah, I don't think anything's going on with Ferrari. We kind of touched on it earlier, didn't we? I think it is just testing, and I don't think we're seeing their true pace at all. I'm just watching now Bottas on the straight for this steering wheel. Every time I see a Mercedes on board, I'm like, is he going to do it?
Does it kind of remind you a little bit of the Williams in the 90s that had the whole suspension that was computerized and everything that got banned the very next year?
The active suspension.
Yeah, yeah.
It's to be honest, like Jonty said this morning, it actually reminds me more about the extra pedal that they had on the McLaren in '98. It reminds me more of that. But I'm just reading up on the F1 page now, and I've got some videos which I will definitely watch tonight. We'll talk about it more tomorrow because people are like, how does it work? I don't think anybody knows yet. I don't think Ferrari are going to say too much. But this is from Mark Hughes on Official F1. Says if the Mercedes mechanism works as assumed, the tyres will be heated more evenly across their width as they run fully upright, but the benefits of toe out can still be deployed into the corner. It will be of particular benefit on circuits with long straights. It appears to be a fully mechanical device, likely using the column movement to activate a lever acting upon the wheel hubs. It will add a whole new dimension to the tools available to the driver in trimming the balance of the car and looking after the tyres. Totally read every bit of that. I have no idea what any of that means, but I think it was also I read on Twitter. It's keeping heat in the tyres as well. But I've got to be honest, there are so many good people with technical knowledge. Craig Scarborough's fantastic, for example. Mark Hughes and all of these great people. Gary Anderson. But all of them seem to have a slightly different take on it. They all seem to converge around the same area, but they're all slightly different takes. And it's one of those things that I kind of feel we're not going to know for sure about until probably the midpoint of the season when somebody else works out how to do it. But it is completely legal, apparently. It's been cleared by the FIA, so nothing there. And now it's up to Ferrari, Red Bull and whatnot as to what they want to do. Do they want to rise to the technical challenge, as Ron Dennis said back in 98 when Ferrari protested that third pedal, or do they want to kick off and try and get it banned? Good stuff.
I imagine they'll probably try and do a bit of both, to be honest.
Yeah.
They'll develop it as soon as they can, but while they're developing, also like try and get it banned. They'll probably be the best for them if it gets outlawed, but I don't think it will do if the FAA have already said it's allowed. But yeah, it'll be depending if safety, I imagine, will be the main problem. If one of the teams develops something, we'll have to take a hand off the wheel or both hands off the wheel. We saw sometimes back in like 2010. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do about it. But it'll be illegal for the first few races at least, which will probably lead to a Mercedes whitewash. But we'll have to wait and see.
I just think I'll get some pictures in a minute from GP today when that updates. But I wonder how bothered teams are going to be about copying it, because I can see it being one of those things, kind of as we've already said, that gets banned for 2021. So I could see that disappearing now that it's obvious what it is and what it's doing, once they get all the information. But if that gets banned for 2021 and it takes 6 months for teams to copy that, are teams going to bother putting the resources into that if it's going to be banned in 2021 and they're busy focusing on these big regulation changes? I mean, I would say Ferrari and Red Bull, yes. But are McLaren, Racing Point going to waste their resources on that for what could
Probably
be a
not.
marginal gain?
You'd assume. You assume they'll just bin it off and focus on the 2021. Obviously, those midfield teams aren't really going to be battling Mercedes anyway. So yeah, there's not really much point unless they're desperate to get an advantage on their rivals. But you can't expect them to focus and wait on 2021 if it's definitely going to get banned.
I suppose as well, it depends on Mercedes' advantage. Like I say, if they rock up to Australia comfortably quicker and dominate the first 6 races and the titles are pretty much over before we get to mid-season, Ferrari and Red Bull might turn around and go, well, we'll just not even bother this year then. Full focus on next year. I can't ever see it happening, but they might.
And the question also is if Ferrari or let's say Red Bull were to try and copy it, would it even work with the design of their car? Maybe it wouldn't even work with the way that they designed the front suspension and with the rest of the front of the car. So maybe it's not even worth for them to even try and copy it if it ends up being really good for Mercedes.
Rhetorical resources. Red Bull and Ferrari already have it. Merck just didn't hide it as well. Winky face. It could be. Could be. I think we're all now. There's the Mark Priestley explainer, so I will definitely go and check that out later. So I recommend that for anybody that wants to watch it. A bit more information, because he will do a better job than I ever could, even reading it. But I think now we're kind of waiting for what Ferrari and Red Bull say. Or it feels that way. Because I think we're... Yeah. I'm not sure. I can't work out what they're going to do. The skeptic in me says that Ferrari are just going to go straight in with appeal. Even if it's legal, it doesn't matter. They thought their engine was legal last year. So I can see them going straight into appeal after FP1 in Australia or after the race. But I'd like to, I'd like them to just rise to the technical challenge. Come on, just do it yourself. Come up with something. Come on. Was that with the double diffuser when people were kicking off at Brawn? It's like, well, why don't you just build it? Come on.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a double diffuser that let Braun win that title either, because like 3 other teams I think had it. So like they still built a better car, and like even without double diffuser they would have been close to the front anyway. So just do it yourself. They're all paid millions of money. They've got massive budgets. So yeah, why not? Why not just make it yourself and see how it goes?
Sorry, I'm just looking for pictures on GP today, but it's still down, unfortunately. The gallery. So apologies. I'll have another look in a bit, see if we can get something. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they decide to do with it. But we'll move on from Mercedes. I'll take some comments from the chat. Exactly. Do something better. Completely agree. Definitely. I think. I mean, what? I'm not going to try and pretend to know what they could do better. Put a go faster stripe on it. It'll be great. See what happens.
Yeah, that will gain you half a second at least, surely.
Trying to find a question that isn't people arguing with each other.
Keep scrolling.
I don't know. Yeah, keep going. 6 weeks later. There's got to be one in there somewhere. Il Papa says, how do you watch the testing? You can watch it on Sky Sports F1 if you're in the UK. Sky Sports Italy over in... surprise, Italy, and on F1 TV. I'm sure there are more imaginative ways that you can watch it, but I'm not really promoting those streams because, knock on wood, FOM have been pretty good this year, and according to Stuart, they're trying to be a bit more lenient with those who are not showing the footage, but I've also seen on YouTube lots of people showing the footage, so they've probably gone too far the other way, and we'll all get punished next year for it. But yes, there you go. Questions in chat then, if it wants to refresh. It is on YouTube, yes. I really like this F1 channel. I am glad I did learn English. Thank you very much, Puzzle TV. Russell's back out. He is indeed. I don't know why I click on deleted messages. Because it's just people abusing me generally. Where is Latifi? Latifi's not in the car today. Neither of the Canadians. Oh, that's badly timed, Chris. Neither of them in the car today, are they?
Hey, we had years without any Canadians on the F1 grid, so I'm not complaining.
I'll tell you, actually, somebody asked me this. What was your take on Jacques Villeneuve? Are you a fan of his? I'm about him.
Yeah, I mean, when I started watching F1, it was the early 2000s, and he was kind of on the way out when he was with BAR Honda at the time. So I wasn't really old enough to remember his World Championship glory days. He's definitely not short of an opinion, that's for sure. But yeah, I'm kind of indifferent to him, to be honest with you. I don't like him, or I don't not like him. I don't agree with everything that he says. Sometimes he says something smart, but yeah, not the biggest Villeneuve fan, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's kind of strange because like Lance Stroll, we don't have like great Canadian F1 personalities. Like Villeneuve was always kind of an odd interview. Lance Stroll's a bit of an odd interview. I think Nicholas Latifi is a lot better, so he can bring some good personality into F1. But yeah, I can't say I'm the biggest Villeneuve fan, regardless of the fact that he's from Canada.
Because see, that's again on Stroll. I mean, he gets a lot of stick everywhere.
Right.
But in Canada, is he like, like people are with over here with British drivers like Russell and Norris and Hamilton? Does he get that kind of love over in Canada, or is he seen like the rest of the world as just a pay driver and no good when actually he's a good driver, whether people like it or not? That's gonna get me some stick.
It's interesting. Some of the comments from our viewers that are from Canada, they typically go toward the pay driver way. Same with
Oh
Nicholas
wow.
Latifi. And we always try and kind of not necessarily defend up two of them, but we always bring up the point, hey, listen, these guys are in F1 because they're extremely talented. Yes, they do have financial backing. Yes, they have the luxury of having fathers who are very successful, but they wouldn't be in F1 had it not been for their talent. I mean, these teams aren't just going to put in any driver. If I won the lottery tomorrow, they're not going to put me in the Williams just because I got the money. You need skill to be in this sport, but honestly, outside of the F1 community, Lance Stroll is not very known in Canada. Formula One is still a fairly unpopular sport in Canada. When it comes time for the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal, it's an excellent Grand Prix. I highly recommend to anybody that's in the area or if you even want to travel to the race. It's an excellent atmosphere. But outside of the Canadian Grand Prix, not much F1 coverage in the major sports networks. So Lance Stroll is not even one of our most known athletes in the country.
Wow, I see Canadian Grand Prix. It always looks packed out, and like I just assumed Canada loved F1, but yeah, I mean, going over for the race is definitely on my bucket list. It's one I've always wanted to see. Obviously, Monaco's on there and things like that, but I've always wanted to go to Montreal for Canada. So
Yeah, I mean, like I said, great atmosphere, brilliant racetrack, obviously a great city. I love where the track is located at. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. Obviously, our number one sport over here is hockey, so you got a lot of focus there. But it's kind of like the UK. Obviously, football over there is very popular versus something like baseball, for example. I can't imagine is very big in the UK,
No, not
right?
at all.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing too. It's not very exciting. So, it's tough because like we obviously love F1, and when you come to work or you try and talk to your coworkers about sports, not many people watch Formula One. When it comes time for the Canadian Grand Prix, a lot of people do come out, but there's not a lot of hardcore fans that will watch all races all year round and be familiar with all the drivers, which is a little unfortunate.
oh, there you go. I've learned something genuinely. Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it kind of bothers us sometimes because, for example, when Lewis Hamilton won the championship last year, it was record breaking, right? Sixth world title, second most successful driver in F1 history. It was a big sporting moment. It got barely any coverage over here. I'm not sure what it was like in the UK and other parts of the world, but
It was
in
pretty big over
Canada,
here.
yeah, and as it should be, right? But in Canada, barely mentioned. It barely mentioned on any of the sports shows.
Well, you say it got quite a bit over here, Jamie. Sports person like the year still winds
Oh
me
yeah.
up so much. And how he's not got a knighthood. Don't go into tax, because there are plenty of people that have won or who have been awarded knighthoods who avoid tax and then
Jensen
don't
Button
abide
lived in
by the
Monaco,
rules.
so-
Sir Ian Duncan Smith. But well, that's the channel taken down. But yeah, no, I don't think it got.
Yeah, like we are witnessing
Uh,
like the potentially the greatest driver the Formula One world would ever see, and he's from our own country, and people still have a disliking towards him for whatever reason, whether it's like all these made up reasons that they don't like him, or just maybe his attitude like 10 years ago was a bit dodgy, but he's gone well past that now. Like, I'm not a Hamilton fan. I can appreciate his driving ability, and I really do like I can admit he's one of the best sportsmen in the world right now, and one of the best F1 drivers we've ever seen. But I've never been a fan of his, but I can still appreciate it. But I feel like a lot of people in our country just don't like him for whatever reason. Why it's pretty annoying. Like I don't know, but I don't want to get into the reasons. But yeah,
the thing is, I think there are a few sides. I think there is that people say they don't like him. Again, that vocal minority on Twitter and whatnot. But I also think that the fact it's gone behind a paywall makes a difference because there are fewer eyes on the sport in the UK. So you rely on your BBCs and that, unfortunately, to report on it. And often the sports shows are stuck at the end of the news, as they always have been. And F1 is generally the last thing they mention. So it maybe doesn't get feel like it gets the coverage because it doesn't. Whereas when it was live on the BBC, more people were witnessing it. I mean, was it 13 something million tuned in to watch him win the 2008 title, but with highlights, about 2.5, 3 million tuned in for him to win his sixth.
Wow.
So I don't think that's necessarily people don't like him. I think that is a factor. And I think that there will be other things that he's done in his personal life or that he doesn't do in his personal life in some people's eyes, that will have a factor on that. But I also think that just people aren't watching F1 like they used to. But then, which is weird, kind of like you were saying about Canada, Chris, it's kind of weird that you watch the British Grand Prix, you go to Silverstone, it is rammed, it is so full, and it sold out last year. So there's so many people in the UK still love it, but people aren't watching it because even if he's a driver that's from your country and he's doing really, really well, do you really want to pay upwards of £25 a month to watch him dominate and probably win the race and the championship comfortably?
Right.
It's really difficult. So I think there are loads of reasons why he maybe doesn't get the recognition over here. I mean, he'll definitely get more than he does in other countries. Of course he would. But I get frustrated with the whole Lewis Hamilton thing anyway, because I get stick if I say anything good about him. I get stick if I say anything bad about him. The British media, if they say a word about him, like Sky Sports F1, they have got a lot of bias towards Lewis Hamilton. I think even they would admit that. But that's not okay in people's eyes. But it's totally fine for Italian media to be biased towards Ferrari. It's totally fine for German media to be biased towards Vettel. Why is it not okay for British media to be biased towards Hamilton?
Yeah, and it's not even like they're trying to annoy fans. It's like literally, as a media company, you're trying to get clicks and you're trying to get people to read your articles. If a casual fan, like, they're not going to read an article about like Lance Stroll, are they? From a British point of view, like, they want to see articles about Hamilton, who they might have a slight interest in. Like, realistically,
Right.
that's how you grow your audience. Like, by getting those casual fans to read your stuff, you need to like almost the big titles with the big names like Hamilton and arguably Vettel when he was winning titles back to back. Like, all the articles will be about them. So it's no wonder people say that they're biased. It's just they're reporting on the biggest stars. So
It's difficult, is it? Like, from a media point of view, so like the press, you can't have Hamilton win a race and then say he was crap. You've got to give him the praise for winning that race, and because he wins so many races, maybe it does come across as biased. But it's a difficult one. But I just again, before this YouTube business, I just thought Lewis Hamilton was loved across the whole country because he was British and winning the titles. But nope, not at all. Soon learn that one. Jedi Master said he will be knighted after he retires. I think that's probably what's going to happen with Lewis. I think he's going to be one of those drivers, and I kind of feel the same about Vettel as well. They're the kind of drivers that aren't going to get the recognition they deserve until after they've retired. And I think that was the case with Schumacher too. A lot of people who dislike Schumacher that I know would now quite happily say he's one of the best of all time, and he was a great driver. But when they're racing, they're dominating. There's controversy around them, for example, on track or anything. It's going to stir up emotions, isn't it? But once they've retired and you sit down and look at what they achieved, you're going to go, yeah, they were pretty good, and then they'll get their recognition. So I think that's kind of what we're waiting for, to be honest. Not that I want them both to retire, but in terms of knighthoods and all of that, I'm obviously Seb won't get one, but yeah, I think that's maybe just me, Chris. I don't know if we just need to wait for drivers to retire before we can really appreciate what they've done, and I guess as well know their legacy, what they're leaving behind.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. I've said it before too. We won't really appreciate Lewis Hamilton until after he retires, and I agree with Jamie too. You know, I'm not the biggest Lewis Hamilton fan, and I've got certain things that not necessarily I don't like about him, but that sort of kind of rub you the wrong way. But I don't know the guy personally, so we only see what's represented in the media, and that could completely be different from what he's actually like. But I think that he's one of the greatest drivers ever, whether you like him personally or not. I think technically probably the greatest driver that we've ever had. Very intelligent guy when you hear him talk about the car, when you hear his engineers talk about the way that he interacts with the team. I think that's something that's probably one of the most underrated things about him. But much like with a lot of athletes in other sports, you know, whether you look at like somebody like LeBron James, for example, who has plenty of haters all over the world, we won't really get to appreciate the greatest ever until they retire and you look back and you go, wow, you know, Schumacher was really great or Lewis Hamilton was really great. And unfortunately, we won't be able to do that until they retire and they're long gone.
I'm still scrolling through. We've kind of started a debate now. I don't know how we got on to Lewis Hamilton, but we did. I love
It always
these.
comes back to him.
Dutch News only mentioned F1 if Max did something. That's from Justin. Thank you very much again for your contribution, mate. I've heard that the Dutch don't say an awful lot unless Verstappen does well. I don't know if that's true. I'm not there, obviously, so we'll see. But thank you very much. Also, PayPal contribution. I'm going to come to proper chat in a moment, but I keep spotting comments, reading one out, and then we talk for 20 minutes about them because they're just every now and again you get really good comments. I mean, Mo, to be fair, you're all awesome. So that's okay. Kiss ass. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Thank you very much to Armands again for your contribution. And Jack keeps sending me a penny, but I never get any of it because you have to put more than the penny in for PayPal. For Jack watching, you have to start with £3,000, mate. It's the minimum they'll take. But yes, thank you very much. Did Armands leave me a message? He did. Just wanted to let you know that I do leave messages. I'm Kamoa from the Streamlabs donations. There we go. By the way, you're in the old man with the youngsters' voices. I know. All right. I feel like that. It's like I go on Twitter. It's like, when did you start watching? 92. It's like, oh, I wasn't born till 2005. Get out. Just leave now. And thank you very much as well to Daniel. For your generous contribution too on PayPal. So cheers for all the hard work you put in to producing great content. You're more than welcome. I just do it because I love the sport. That's how it started, and it's kind of become a full-time job, which is crazy. Like, yeah. Go on then, Jack. You just sent me a text message. I dares you. But if you do, I'm off on holiday. Simple as that. If you do, I'm sending it straight back. But anyway, in Thailand, F1 still has adverts. That's from Timo. I hated those days on ITV when we had adverts. That was so bad. That was so annoying.
It always felt like the adverts were like deliberately placed to miss out the good action as well. Like, I seem to remember, I was only like 8 at the time, but like every time an advert had finished, it'd be like, oh, here's a crash that just happened that we missed or something like that. It was so annoying.
I missed that. Smart asses in the chat. F1/E reviews. The media have a lot of bias towards Hamilton, says the man who owns an LH44 shrine. I don't have an LH44 shrine. I am not a massive Lewis Hamilton fanboy, but if I was, at least I'd be a fanboy of a driver with some talent, Dan.
A little bit harsh, probably, but never mind. I'm sure he can take it.
He can. Autosport, we were bantering as much as we could. So there we go. Asif said, do you think the Mercedes steering trick is legal? Apparently it is. Apparently the FIA have known for a while and it's all fine. So that's great. People let me know in their age in chat. Good to see some 25 and 27-year-olds here. You know, I'm still a little bit older than that, but it's closer than when people are like, I'm 15. Like, oh, no. But yeah. And thank you very much to Twixter13. What are you thinking about Merck's DAS? I mean, I think we've covered that loads, but it is legal. I think it's really good to see teams still able to find some innovation on these cars, despite the restrictions. And I'm looking forward to seeing it all kick off in Australia. James is 30. Good lad. 32 in a few weeks, says Gingerfest. Annette, I don't believe you. You don't look a day over 21. Kiss ass. Alan 41. Oh, at least yeah. Oh, I'm not gonna ask you to your age because you're gonna be like 9 or something like that. But I'll do a run through the order very quickly while you guys are doing that. Perez 117.3 still fastest, 96 laps on the board. Ricardo 117.7, 41 laps on the board. They're not out, of course. They're having the afternoon off. Pierre Gasly 118.1, 104 laps for him. Alex Albon, or Chris Albon as he was last year, 118.1, 77 laps. George Russell 84 laps, 118.2, 118.2 from Vettel, 33 laps. Leclerc 118.3, 49 laps. Lewis Hamilton a 118.3 as well, 106 laps this morning. Leclerc and Hamilton are not in their cars this afternoon. They've been taken over by Bottas and Vettel. Grosjean, or the cars have. Hamilton and Leclerc haven't been taken over by Bottas and Vettel. They're both perfectly fine. I understand it. Grosjean 118.4, 118 laps. Raikkonen 118.5, 98 laps. Norris 118.5, 103 laps. Ocon 118.5, 23 laps. And Valtteri Bottas 121.246 and 48 laps. So Ocon on Ricciardo, not quite over 100 yet. They're getting that way. Perez is in the car this afternoon. What am I talking about? He is in the car. Lancey Boy's not until tomorrow. Russell getting towards 100 as well. He's been out, which is good. It's been good, such good conversation that I've not even looked at the TV, really, apart from every time I see a Mercedes and go, oh, are we on board? Which is good stuff. So, yes, I'm just going to give that a refresh and make sure I've not missed anything. But yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to work out who's done 100. Perez is going to do that. He's on 97. Ricciardo did 41. Ocon's done 25, so they're getting that way. Mercedes are well over that already. Norris has gone over 100. Raikkonen's on the brink. Grosjean's gone through 100. Russell probably will as well. It's going to be another good day of running, so I think that's great stuff. But I think Williams. Are we all happy to see Williams at least at testing, but also getting the laps in? Chris, are you pleased for that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that like sometimes on our show we kind of poke fun at the expense of Williams. We did last year, but you have to remember the history of this team. You have to remember all the world champions and legends that this team has had before. So to see them kind of be on the right track so far in the 2020 season is really great to see. And I think they got a really good driver lineup. George Russell is a fantastic driver, potentially a future world champion. And a lot of people are underrating Nicholas Latifi. And I'm not just saying that because he's Canadian. I think that Nicholas Latifi will be a really solid driver for Williams. He's not as young as people think. He's 23 years old. So he's got plenty of experience. And I think that Williams probably won't be, eighth or seventh in the constructors championship. I think they'll probably still finish last, but I think that they'll make a significant improvement in what they've done in 2019, which I guess isn't that hard because 2019 only scored 1 point and they had a pretty rough year. But I think it's good for F1 to see Williams somewhat back on their feet for now.
I'm not going to tell you what he's done just yet, but Jack, let me know, mate. Do you want me to reject that? Because it's very tempting to accept it. And like you said, that could be a very expensive joke if I hit accept on PayPal. You need to let me know. Oh, do I just do it and be a prick? Really land him in it. Let me know, Jack. I've sent you a message, mate. Yes, I will. I'll reject it, don't worry. Oh, I've got him over a barrel now. That'll teach you for sending pennies my way. Yes, let's do some. We've got another contribution in from Chance Baker. Says, did you see the NASCAR crash last weekend at Daytona? It was amazing. The guy walked away with barely a scratch, hit at 200 miles per hour on Dorton roof. Yes, I did see that. Bloody horrible accident. And I think I said yesterday, it's just a miracle that he's, to be honest, even alive. Jamie, I'm sure you've seen it, but I mean, when I saw that accident, my first reaction was, he's gone. I didn't expect to see him get out of that at all.
It's pretty horrific, but very glad that he's alive and seems to be doing reasonably well considering. But yeah, hopefully he can get back in the car eventually. But we'll have to wait and see about
that. Did he? Because he walked out of hospital, didn't he?
Yeah.
Which is absolutely incredible. I'm not a big follower of NASCAR. I've not really ever watched it, but
neither at all.
These crashes, I mean, that is just a miracle. Absolute miracle is what I'd argue. So fantastic to see him get away from that one. It's kind of relieving as well for the poor guy that hit him, because imagine, I mean, a bit like Correa, he's got to live with that. Not Correa's fault at all what happened with Hubert, but he's got to live with that.
Have you guys seen that a recent interview with Correa actually?
No, I haven't. No.
It was pretty interesting. I think he was doing some esports. Might have been the Gran Turismo esports, but he was doing some sort of esports, and he was just talking about the crash. I can't remember exactly what the video was called, but I'm sure everybody can find it on YouTube. Very interesting. He kind of goes into a little bit of detail about the moment of the crash and what happened after, and he was actually conscious during the whole thing, which was just so crazy. So it's amazing that he's even alive because he was in a coma for I think solid 2 or 3 weeks. So I mean these racing drivers, man, they're just a different type of people.
I can't reject it at the minute, Jack. It's not come through. Don't worry, it's still on pending, and I need to take action. But I can't reject it at the moment. So if I can't, I will go and do it. Don't panic. I'm not going to take that from you. Or am I? That's the big question. But yeah, in all seriousness, just very pleased to see that he's still alive. But I'm going to try and avoid getting too morbid. We've had a couple of morbid moments on these streams. But yeah, again, highlights safety. And I'm sure, as I think it was Dan that said yesterday that more needs to be done safety-wise. But it's always good to see drivers get out of big accidents in the end. So yeah, hopefully we won't see any more. But unfortunately, the way motorsport works, like I said yesterday, you're doing 200 miles an hour. You can make the cars as safe as you want. You never know what's going to happen. So many variables in that situation. So most important thing is I'd never say fine. It's like I kept saying after the Hubert thing, Correa's fine, but what I mean is they're alive. Obviously, he's not fine at all.
Right.
But yeah, that sometimes gets lost in translation, I think.
And I think it's important too, like when you're just talking about NASCAR before, like some people always kind of make the joke in the comment, like, "Oh, all they do is turn left." But I mean, that's not the reality. I mean, this is very dangerous what they're doing. And although NASCAR seems really boring, the speeds that they're doing in such tight corners and the banking of the walls and how close they are, I mean, it's incredibly difficult. And same with F1. Like these guys are putting their lives on the line. So I think it's important to always just have that respect for what they're doing instead of just saying, "Oh, like this is easy." I think like last year was a not a good reminder. I don't want to say it that way, but was kind of a wake up call to everybody to show like motorsport is still very dangerous, no matter how safe you're going to make it.
Well, see, that's the thing. People, they only turn left, and then you get like, oh, Lewis Hamilton's only winning because he's got the fastest car. It's like, well, you go do it.
Yeah.
If it's that easy, you go do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. They, I think about a year ago now, and one of our main sports networks here in Canada did a feature series on when Jacques Villeneuve won the World Championship in 1997, and then the very same year, there was a competition for the Canadian Athlete of the Year with a baseball player. I found it hilarious that they were trying to compare a baseball player to a Formula One driver, but that's a whole nother rant, so I won't go down that road. Um, but basically, the some of the journalists were trying to make the argument that, oh well, Jacques Villeneuve won the championship all because of his car. The car did the work, and which is just completely false because obviously the driver is a massive part of it, and the driver still has to perform. Doesn't matter how good the car is. Lewis Hamilton is winning all these world championships. Yes, they do have the best car, but he's also the best driver, arguably. I won't open that debate right now. um, so the driver is a big factor for sure. So it's not just all the car. The driver has a lot to do with it.
If it was all the car, Bottas wouldn't have been 80 something points behind Hamilton last year.
Exactly right.
And that's not a shot at Bottas. It's the same for everybody. So, Ricardo, sorry, Jamie, beat Hulkenberg last year. If that was all the car, then Nico would have been a point or two behind him. Yeah, I know there are lots of variables in F1, but that's my simple way of looking at it. Definitely. What we got going on track at the minute before we get on to, I will take some more from chat. We've kind of started a conversation in chat, so there's not many questions coming through at the moment. They're just kind of chatting to each other, which is kind of the point of chat, which is wicked. So yeah, we'll read some of your comments out. We'll look at Lando Norris at the minute with some sensors and cameras on the side of his airbox. Interesting stuff. That McLaren's it's a good looking car on track. It really is, and I like the blue this year. I did like the way they had it last year, like partly on the engine cover with all those shapes and whatnot, but I do like the look of it this year. The only thing I don't like about the McLaren as it comes towards you is on the nose, they've like got this nice slim tidy nose, and then they've like stuck some what looks like black plastic. It's not, I know it's not, but they've sort of black to the front of it on the very tip of the nose, and it looks a mess. Paint it orange, for God's sake. But yeah, do like the McLaren out there. Lando Norris P11 at the minute, 1.1 off the fastest time from Perez. Well, Perez third yesterday, first today. There's going to be some suspicions wandering around, I fear, Jamie. that there's something
Yeah,
going on here.
you'd assume so. But then I'm sure these times aren't relative to what they're actually going to be doing. But Perez, I do expect a strong season from him, but I don't think he'll be winning the title, if I'm perfectly honest. I'm sure Mercedes have improved their own car from last year. So it would be very easy to see if like Ferrari or Mercedes took a step backwards and suddenly Haas and Racing Point were faster than them.
How funny would it be in Australia if it turns out the W10 was better than the W11 and Racing Point lock out the front row and Mercedes are like, oh crap, we need to take that off them. Here's a good debate from Nicholas Cowie. What's the best grid we've had in F1?
Oh,
It's a tasty debate, and I'm probably going to upset a lot of people.
Definitely a recent one, I would say.
I mean, it's and my first reaction without really thinking about it would be going back to the grid of 7 world champions.
7?
Was it 7? No, not 7. How many was it?
Well, 7 if you included Rosberg.
Yeah, but, future world champion, but at the time, yeah,
that had the likes of like who was it? All the backmarker teams like De La Rosa or people like that. Like the average talent was probably like of the top 10 teams was probably pretty good, but then you look below that, it wasn't fantastic. But my immediate reaction would be 2019, really. Like,
really,
we got rid of the likes of who was it? So Ericsson went. A lot of the almost want to say like Deadwood went, obviously King Marcus, but
yeah, careful.
And then, yeah, I don't want to get too much into that, but it felt like obviously with no real backmarker teams, and all the drivers are pretty good. I think at the end of last season, the only drivers without a podium were the 4 rookies and Hulkenberg. So every other driver had been on the podium at some point in their career, which is impressive. Like 15 drivers, I think it was. Obviously, Albon, Norris, Russell, Giovinazzi, and Hulkenberg were the drivers who hadn't had a podium at the end of last season. So that grid was pretty strong.
7 races, 7 different winners is what I was thinking of. It's 6 world champions. Vettel, Button, Hamilton, Alonso, Schumacher, and then Raikkonen. And then, of course, Rosberg became world champion in 2016. And Massa was, I mean, it was world champion for like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So, yeah, almost 8. So, yeah, I think 2012 will be my go-to. But as you kind of pointed out, looking at the rest of the grid, Charles Pic, Narain Kartikeyan, Vitaly Petrov, Heikki Kovalainen, Pastor Maldonado. I mean, Kobayashi was a legend. I'm not even going to dig at him. Jerome D'Ambrosio. They're good names in the series they've gone off to compete in, but they weren't exactly epic in Formula One. So that's a really good question.
If we're just going off driver lineup, how about 2015?
I'm going to have to Google that.
I would say that Roberto Meri and Will Stevens were on the grid that season, but
leave Will alone.
I think in terms of the world champions we had on the grid, you had Alonso and Button on the same team. Obviously Lewis, Vettel, Felipe Massa, the debut of Max Verstappen. Just quickly off the top of my head was one of the first ones I thought about.
Yeah, I suppose. But then the likes of Sauber had like Ericsson, Nasser.
Nasser, I forgot about him.
Maldonado was still there at that point. Like
Felipe Nasser was a bit underrated, I think.
I do feel,
it wasn't amazing. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah, and all I remember him for is crashing into Marcus Ericsson quite a bit. But yeah.
I forgot that Rossi had done some races as well. Was he the last American on the grid? He will have been, won't he?
Yep.
I think we could do with an American. They're on about building the reputation for the sport over there. We could do with an American driver or two. We got an American team. I'm still amazed they haven't got an American driver. And I thought,
me too.
The fuss they make over being this American team, I thought they would go all out to bring somebody in. But yeah,
there's no one really in the pipeline at the minute. It feels like obviously there was a Correa, but that got a bit curtailed. But yeah, not really anyone coming through this American that I can think of at least. But
Paddy O'Ward, is he American?
He's Mexican, but I think he races under American license. I'm not sure, but he's not exactly on the cusp of F1 at the minute. I don't feel like, but maybe in a few years.
It all depends if they wanted to just grab somebody out of IndyCar and throw them into F1, but obviously there's the whole super license thing, so that's probably not going to happen.
Going back and looking at seasons now for driver lineups. 2003, Schumacher, Barrichello, Montoya, Schumacher, Coulthard, Raikkonen, Alonso, Trulli, Frentzen, Mr. I always forget about him, Nick Heidfeld, Fisichella, Mark Webber, Button, Jos Verstappen, who, by the way, what was I watching? Oh my God. It was one of the top 10s on the F1 YouTube channel.
Where he
it
took
was the
out
pit lane disaster
Montoya.
one.
Was it? Oh no.
And Jos Verstappen, it's such a stupid thing to say because I look just like my dad, but how much Max looks like Jos Verstappen, a young Jos Verstappen. That's like
Yeah,
I did a double
completely.
take. I was like, wow. I mean, that's not a bad grid, but again, it's the same argument. You've got Cristiano De Matta,
Ralph Furman, Zolt Baumgartner.
yeah, Antonio Pizzonia, Zolt Baumgartner, Ralph Furman.
Seems like there's a lot of Scott Speed fans in the live chat.
Not sure why, but yeah.
He's another one of those, though, isn't he? That did all right after leaving F1, but just didn't really deliver in Formula One.
But like, that's the best racing name you could ever have, don't you think?
Oh yeah,
It's like,
Yeah, completely.
Now, what year was Rio Haryanto? Was that 2016?
2016, yeah.
Okay,
So
I
half the year.
changed my mind. That was my favorite driver lineup.
Just looking at obscure names in the chat. Alex Young, a good one.
How about Marcus Winkelhock? Was that that one year that he?
2007,
07,
That was
yeah.
one race, not even 1 year.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, just didn't he? He just like, you're in for this race, mate. Oh well,
Yeah.
at least everyone will forget who I am. No.
He's got the best races led in his career percentage out of any F1 driver in history. So, not all bad for him.
Yeah,
Yeah, true.
I still keep forgetting that Antonio Giovinazzi led multiple laps last year.
Yeah.
I always forget that one. All at one race, of course, but yeah, I did see a good question. Tim C. Cambridge said, should F1 close the cockpit in 2021 like IndyCar? Are they starting to close over the wheels as well? I wondered about the wheels, funnily enough. I wondered if they might go down the Formula E route to allow a bit more wheel banging on street tracks, but then Formula E removed their wheel covers. If you like, they've removed those arches for the next gen, haven't they? So maybe not, but they're not going to cover it for 2021. And I don't know. I've not actually seen what anybody else thinks. So maybe this is a controversial opinion. Maybe it's not. I actually think the Halo looks better than the Aero screen.
Yeah, I would agree with that, definitely.
Yep, same.
Which, if you told me that 3 years ago that I'd say that, having seen the options, I'd never have believed it. But I actually do think the Halo, the cars actually look weird without them now, which is really, I think back to one of the first videos on the channel was me ranting about the Halo and how much it was disgusting and I hate it. And here I am going, I love the Halo, it's amazing.
Yeah, I look back at some 2016 races recently and like, it seems like the helmets are so exposed. It's like anytime there's a crash, I'm like so worried for the driver.
Right. That's the only thing I miss is just not being able to see more of the driver. Or like, remember when Ricardo used to celebrate his wins? He'd be almost like half out of the car.
And like do you remember that move he did on one of the Williams at Monza from like 70 meters back in the turn one? He like did like a gang sign with his hand after doing it, and you thought you wouldn't see that anymore.
Yeah, you miss a lot of those the middle fingers now. You don't see them as often because of the Halo.
I mean, Max still managed it with Ocon back a couple of years ago.
Right. Yeah.
I just look at the Halo now on Seb's car. I just think, don't bother. The only thing is, like from a distance, being at the racetracks and that, it is a pain. Trying to tell the drivers apart, and it's all well and good. I said this yesterday. It's all well and good, like making the shark fin bigger and saying you have to make your number bigger so your drivers are more distinguishable or whatever, or recognisable. But then you've got Williams being stupid and putting a 6 and a 3, 6 on top of the 3, so you can't really make it out. So from certain angles, it's going to look like Latifi all the time. And then you've got McLaren, who for some reason have a barcode style number with all those lines in that is almost unrecognisable from a distance. I thought this was supposed to make it easier.
They should like lower the rules a bit on how much the cars can be different, because I don't know if you've seen F2 at all, but like the Univirtuosi team, like their cars are literally one's yellow and one's red for the different drivers, so that'd be interesting to see. But then you kind of lose the edge of it being a team sport if the drivers have different cars. But I'd be interested to see, like, just even little things like if one halo was a different color to the other or something to match the helmet designs. That'd be quite a cool addition. But I doubt the FIA will do that anytime soon.
Is it Sean Bull that does those concepts where he has like the driver flag, like on the shark fin?
Yeah,
I think that would be quite cool. Something like that. Yeah, I mean, I think if you like us and you're watching F1 all the time, I think you're going to be able to work out which driver is which. But casual fans, it's going to get frustrating. And this was a debate as well about, I think it was on the official commentary yesterday, about helmet design, and how samey some of them are starting to look. And the whole point of getting rid of the old numbering system, World Champions 1 and 2 and all that, was to give the drivers the opportunity to pick a number they wanted and build a brand around it. But nobody seems to be doing that when it comes to helmet design, which is weird. I mean, Nico Rosberg, I think he did because he had that really nice black helmet, and then he had like the Roman numerals for his number on.
Yeah, and he had like a whole merchandising based on the number and design as well, which is really cool.
I know Hamilton's got like, Still I Rise and whatnot on his helmet, so there are those doing it. But I think some of the helmets are so. I mean, look, Gasly and Kvyat, they're just wearing the same helmet.
Yeah, and the same with Perez and Stroll to some extent as well. Obviously, Perez has got a little Mexican flag on the back of it, but you're not going to see that from the front when you're looking like from the stands, for instance.
Is that true, Waffle Cat? Because I'm going to read it out anyway. Fun fact. Dawn Boss is only the second driver to start an erotic business after F1. The first was Peter Arundel, who also made erotic video games.
Where can I send that man a donation? That's a great fact.
if that is true, donations to Waffle Cat, please. There you go. You learn something new every day. Lando is sporting a good bucket. I agree, Eric. You can see Lando Norris coming a mile off, can't you? And he's in an orange McLaren. I mean, you're not going to miss Lando Norris, are you, anytime soon? But yeah, I will check the wiki. I absolutely will. Let's not get into what erotic is, Joe Hunt. That's definitely getting me demonetised. There's no doubt about that one. I think Danny Rick's got a good helmet.
His is just a testing one. That's going to get taken out of context.
Great. But yeah, we were talking about yesterday, like the driver flag, for example. You had Michael Schumacher had the German flag on the back. The old helmets with like British colours and stuff. I don't know. It's probably just me being a boomer.
Like when you think about like Michael Schumacher, Mika Hakkinen, even to some extent Fernando Alonso, their helmets are like iconic, and you can picture them straight away. There's not many drivers that, because they change every year, and depending on what team they're at, they're always different. Like it's hard to picture anyone's like specific designs anymore.
Stuart or Dan said this yesterday. Since Sebastian Vettel was forced to stop making a new helmet every weekend, he's come up with a really nice design.
Yeah, I do like his.
But yeah, because I think it all started because they showed those pictures of the two Force India helmets, didn't they? And they were identical, except the numbers, and everyone was like, oh no. Racing Point, sorry. Oh no, that's going to be terrible. We're not going to tell them apart. But luckily, they've gone back to their other ones. But yeah. Not a purple out there at the minute in terms of helmets as well. Obviously, I think Daniel Ricciardo's the Kobe tribute, which is really cool. Lewis Hamilton's got some purple on it. I don't know if that's a permanent thing or whether that's a Kobe tribute. Maybe that is. I've not seen anything on that. So, yeah. And Hulkenberg's helmet last year was awesome. The yellow one was awesome as well.
Yeah, that was really cool.
But yeah, that's helmet talk. Why not? Nothing really changing in the order at the minute, just the laps. Perez still fastest from this morning, 109 laps for him. Albon's on 94, but he's still in the pit, so another driver probably going to go through the 100. Gasly's done 115. Russell's heading towards 192 for him. Vettel's done 40 already. Only 9 fewer than Leclerc, who was in all morning this morning, but he did have a couple of issues, I think, Leclerc. He was out of the car early anyway, that's for sure. Hamilton has done 106. Grosjean's done 119. Bottas on almost 70. That's what I'm going to say. People asking in chat about Mercedes steering. We've talked about that a lot. so far. I'm sure we'll touch on it again before the end of the stream, but we're moving on from that for a bit. It is definitely the big talking point, that is for sure. Just watching Vettel come through. I think they're all on long runs now. Vettel 2.4 seconds off Perez's time from this morning. So I know some keep asking in chat, what's up with Ferrari? But I think it is just taking it easy, bit of sandbagging, get the laps on the board they need to, and all of that. So, I think that's good. Was it you, Chris, that said you need to get off about 3:30?
Yeah, I'm actually still good for about another half an hour or so. So yeah, I'm still good to go.
Okay. I'll keep an eye on the time, but before you disappear, I might leave you two in charge of the chat for a couple of minutes and just go and have a quick break. But I'll give it a few more minutes yet. While you're both there, I'm hoping we're going to get some pictures from GP today, but they've had some issues with their gallery today. As soon as I can get some, I will put some in. But at the moment, we're stuck with the ones from earlier. Aha! That was a noise. I think we've got some, which is good. A lot of stuff from the press conferences. Have you seen the way they're doing the press conferences testing, like a chat show?
No,
How awkward did Kimi Räikkönen look?
He just doesn't want to be there, does he? He's just not interested in the press stuff at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just basically, Jamie, they're just sat on a sofa.
Really?
Somebody's there interviewing him. It's like the Graham Norton show. It's like, what on earth? There's a couple of pictures that I'll use. We'll get them in the stream. Why not? Need to save them to the right folder, though. What we got in chat as well. Nobody has had Rich Energy. They haven't. That's from Cramron. It's also Vettel's first session in this testing. It is indeed. I keep forgetting about it. Was poorly yesterday. Not feeling great this morning. So, Joe Hunt wants to know if we've ever tried Husky Chocolate or Rich Energy. No and no. What is Husky Chocolate a hot chocolate or a...
I'm not sure. I've never seen it, but they're McLaren sponsors. But I've only heard of them since they started sponsoring McLaren, which I suppose is their aim. But yeah, never seen it in the... Yeah.
I think the whole Rich Energy thing, I think about 7 people on the planet have tried it. So
I think Rich Energy is like Bigfoot. I mean, we've seen some sightings of it, but we don't really know if it's really real.
I think that there were some people who claimed that it was basically Red Bull. Because I think it's made in Austria, which makes the whole "we are a British company" thing even funnier.
Right.
It's like, well, you're clearly not. Well, you may be a British company, but your product isn't all British. I mean, what is? Let's be honest. But yeah, got to be honest. I'm glad they're gone.
Yeah, very much so.
What a disaster that was.
I mean, it started off funny, didn't it? Really, it was all a bit of fun. And we thought, I think they're just playing with this, and then it just, there's airing your dirty laundry in public, and then there was that mess. It was absolutely ridiculous, and I'm kind of glad they've got. I assume William Story's still in charge of the Twitter feed.
I don't know. I haven't ever followed them, so luckily don't see much of them anymore.
Well, they used to follow me, but I blocked them because I got bored of them. But I think, aren't they sponsoring a bike team now? Is it OMG Racing?
They still sponsor West Ham women's team as well.
Oh, God.
So they're still kicking around a bit.
I think it's OMG. I'll have a look in a bit. I'm just going to whack these pictures in, but I'm sure that they're sponsoring somebody in bike racing, which made me laugh. Yeah. I've had Rich Energy, and it is Red Bull. There's no difference whatsoever. That's Andrew Taylor. There you go. I'll take that as gospel, mate. I don't know. To me, all energy drinks pretty much taste the same anyway. Just sugar. That's essentially what they are. It is. It's British Superbikes. Thank you very much, Biker Gaming. And it was OMG. Thank you very much. I knew I'd read it somewhere. I tell you what, the chat today, we're getting a very specific type of bot in here a lot. And I don't know what attracts them to the term testing commentary. I didn't think it was particularly erotic in its titling, but apparently it is. There we go. Anyway, yes. They've done the order, haven't I? So we don't need to do that one again. Thank you very much again to everyone who's contributed. I always keep saying it because I do forget at the end. Looking at Romain Grosjean. Career best finish, second, US Grand Prix 2013 is the stat on screen. That Haas looks good as well on track. That livery. I know it is still, I think it is still technically grey, but it definitely looks more white. And I do like that with the little flashes of red. Just make it look a bit more like a Ferrari,
Yeah. Back to their roots. They started off with a livery quite like that, but it's nice to see it back without the Rich Energy livery that they stuck on the car for a bit.
It's a nice looking car, but then last year's Ferrari was a nice looking car, so it's going to be. But do you think I'll throw it to you first, Chris? But I kind of asked Dan this. He doesn't think Grosjean will be around next year. Do you think Haas will make a change in their lineup for 21? Or I know it's really early to ask that question because they might absolutely smash it this year between them, or literally in some cases. But do you think they'll still be sticking with that lineup?
I think Magnussen will still be at the team. I think Magnussen's probably got a good future at Haas for the next couple of years. I think that Grosjean is probably on the hot seat coming into 2020. For me, he'll have to have a really good season with no mistakes and solid performances in order to get him back for 2021. But I think that if you're Haas, I mean, Grosjean's been with the team now for a couple of years. You haven't really gotten spectacular performances from him. When the car's been a little bit better, he's made some pretty clumsy mistakes. Now, he's still a good driver. I mean, he scored podiums back in his Lotus days, but you might need to look elsewhere. I know we talked earlier about possibly getting an American driver, which would be good for Haas. It kind of all depends on what Haas's future is in Formula One. If they're here for long term, do they want to maybe get an American driver for sponsors and for the brand? I don't know, but I think that I would probably, if Grosjean has a lackluster year, would look at making a change.
Grosjean's a weird one, isn't he? He's clearly got or has had talent in there. I mean, he did well in the Lotus, but I would say, Jamie, it's Last Chance Saloon. But frankly, I thought last year was Last Chance Saloon.
Yeah,
and he didn't deliver, and he's still in that car.
I feel like we forget a little bit. He was actually decent at the first few years of Haas, but like 2018, it felt like was sort of the moment when it fell apart a bit. But he's still hanging on quite somehow. But if he has a good season, then like realistically, they had the opportunity to take anyone last season, and they didn't. They stayed with Grosjean. So if they're going to stay with him last year, then they're probably going to stay with him again. I feel like unless I don't know, I can kind of see the Red Bull like system kicking out one of their drivers, probably Kvyat, if I'm honest, because they want to get the Japanese driver Tsunoda. If he does well in F2, they want to get him in. So that could leave the likes of Kvyat or even like Gasly or Albon if they do really badly to be looking for a seat. And if any of them are up, then I don't see why Haas would turn them away.
I think I could see Kvyat in a Haas.
Yeah,
it'd be a natural move, wouldn't it, with a Ferrari tie?
Yeah.
And I think Marco is more likely to back Gasly than Kvyat again. So
yeah.
Aaron Evans, thank you for your contribution very much indeed. Says a pub in Sligo Island has Rich Energy as their mixer. I was surprised seeing it in real life. Yeah, there you go. So it does exist. We have confirmation. Great. It's only taken a year, and I finally got that confirmation. Great stuff. I think a lot of people are trying it, to be fair. We'll poke fun at it. But yeah, I think Kvyat... could Kvyat and Magnussen be... Oh, no, because he's grown, hasn't he, as Danny? He's not the torpedo he once was as Peter. One incident and he gets christened a torpedo. But yeah, I think I could see him there. I think he'd be a good option for Haas, but I kind of think they'd want to get an American driver in or somebody from North America, which is why I think, I don't know.
I know last year in 2019, I suggested Alex Rossi to come in for 2020 for Haas, but obviously it didn't happen. But Alex Rossi, he's had some F1 experience, really good IndyCar driver, so he would probably be the lead American, I would think. But I just think for Haas to have an American driver for your American team would be a good place to start at least.
I think it'd be kind of cool if like every team had a driver of their nationality. So Williams have got Russell. Ferrari could have an Italian in there, or I think it'd be great marketing wise. But I think teams like Haas could do with that. Help to raise a profile as well. But like
Yeah.
somebody said in chat, who's coming through American driver wise?
I can't even think of any
Yes.
drivers that are on the F2 grid who are American this year. Might be wrong about that, and it's not been fully finalized yet. But yeah, I can't think of any. I don't think.
Yeah, of course there's a lot of, I mean, IndyCar guys, like I follow IndyCar over here as well, so there's a lot of sort of younger up and coming American drivers, but are they F1 ready or are they F1 capable? I don't know, but not really any American racing driver that's kind of in Europe right now that is kind of on the brink of Formula One. I honestly can't think of any off the top of my head.
Just had a quick look, and there's none in F2 this year, but there's one American driver in F3 who is Logan Sargent, who
Oh, of course,
races
yeah.
the Prima. So he could do a good job on F3. He's only 19, so could have a shot in a few years maybe, but depends how well he does really.
As long as he doesn't get fast tracked in because he's American. I don't want Mick Schumacher to get fast tracked to F1 because his name's Schumacher.
Right.
He needs, Sargent and Schumacher and people like that need to make it to F1 when they're ready. Or you could argue, in Lance Stroll's case, when the checkbook is big enough. But yeah, I think it's a concern that they're rushing people through. But I think a lot of teams looking at the future now, aren't they? And they're taking drivers younger and younger and that's why they have these driver programs, because they know that if you can get a good talent like a Max Verstappen, you've got a driver to build around for 15, 20 years. Long-term
Absolutely.
success.
And
Who's
that's
more
why
likely
they,
then, do you reckon, to win a title this year if it's not Hamilton? Do you reckon Leclerc versus Verstappen?
What, we taking Hamilton like out of the Mercedes completely, or
Take Mercedes out of the equation.
okay? I would say Verstappen. I feel like Red Bull are better than Ferrari, to be honest, and they've got more recent experience in winning world championships, and they just seem to be able to run their own team a little bit better than Ferrari can. I don't know. I get that impression, and obviously they don't have to focus on two drivers crashing into each other. They've got like a very secure number one and number two, whereas Ferrari don't really have that, which you wouldn't normally think of Ferrari having two equal drivers, but they do at the minute. So I think Red Bull are in a better place to win a championship at the minute than Ferrari are.
What do you reckon, Chris? Do you agree with that, or do you think Leclerc's got a shot?
no, I would agree with Jamie. I think it's definitely Verstappen and Red Bull at the moment. Ferrari really haven't shown anything that would make you feel confident in them being able to challenge through 22 races this season, or 21 depending on what happens with China. But I think that Red Bull just work much better together as a team, and the car is the only X factor here. I think Max is ready to win right now. He's shown it in the last couple of seasons. He's ready to challenge Hamilton. He just needs the car, and until Ferrari can pull it together, race after race, I've put my faith in them too much in the last couple of years, and they've just disappointed me every single time. So I would definitely go with Red Bull and Max.
Sue made a good point in chat, similar to what you're saying, Jamie, in that Verstappen's teammate won't take points off him. Leclerc's got Vettel to battle, hasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I just feel like the elite extra years experience Verstappen has makes him right now a better driver than Leclerc quite comfortably.
I mean,
Don't
I
want to
said
cause
this
anything in
yesterday as
chat,
well, that
but
Verstappen's been around for what feels like forever now, and everyone's seen him as the next new world champion. It'd be insane to think that Leclerc could just come in and go, nope, and do it before him. I can imagine it's not going to go down well in the Netherlands if that happens, but F1's so much about the car now. If that Ferrari's better than the Red Bull, then Leclerc probably has the better shot, but I'm just looking forward to seeing those two fight each other over the next few years, to be
I
honest.
Yeah, that's a great rivalry if we get more of what we saw last year at Silverstone. But I think people also underestimate Vettel a little bit. And if you remember back to Russia last year with the whole team order drama and how Vettel didn't necessarily want to give back the position that easily, if the car is a little bit better and Ferrari are going to be challenging Mercedes, they're going to have a real problem on their hands because both of their drivers are capable of winning races. And like Jamie said in some of the comments as well, at Red Bull, I think Max is really the only guy at the moment that's going to be capable to win races at every single Grand Prix weekend.
Atish said Ferrari haven't been talked about enough yet. We talked about them for a while earlier, but your comment came up under another one I was going to read actually, so it's kind of well timed. Are you two together? Did you plan that? From Hugh, who said, but what about the B-spec Ferrari said to appear second half of testing? Good point. I forgot to mention that yesterday, actually, that a lot of this talk about Ferrari perhaps not on the pace, this sort of irrelevant in a way for this week, because next week they're bringing their second car, all the aero updates and whatnot, a B-spec car, as it's worded there. So really, I suppose this week for Ferrari is just about getting the miles on the clock, if you like, and then next week they'll be really going for it. Sorry, that just got me excited in commentary there for some reason. I don't know why they were shouting at something, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, I think next week's a more important week for Ferrari than this week is. So I don't think we can read too much into what anybody's doing, but certainly not Ferrari. They are. I will confidently predict now, Ferrari are not. What are we looking at? A second slower than Sergio Perez.
No, not a chance.
So we'll see next week for Ferrari. I think they, like I say, it's probably just about mileage to a point. I mean, they're about to go through 100 now. Mercedes, by the way, are on the brink of 200. Bottas 77 laps, Hamilton 106. That is ridiculous. How much mileage they do in testing. So there's a lot of confidence there. But I think your order's still going to be Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull in. They're still going to be your top three, aren't they? So,
yeah, I think so, definitely. Like, the gap was still really big. You don't see any teams really making that up over one winter, but you never know if Racing Point or Renault, if they've actually got their acts together, then perhaps, but I'd be surprised.
I think another thing for Ferrari and what might be the reason why they're sort of a little bit more quieter this year in testing is if you look at the problems that they had last year, one lap pace was pretty good for them in qualifying. Of course, Leclerc had the most poles. So they might be just putting more effort into race simulation in this first week of testing. They had issues with front tire warm up and keeping the temperature there. So maybe they're just trying to work out more of their race pace because that's where they really suffered last year. So they might not be concerned with one lap pace. They might just be working on the long runs and the setup of the car for high speed corners, low speed corners. And I think that's where Ferrari's focus is, which is probably why they're so farther down on the timesheets.
no worries, Atish. Just that I presume DAS has been discussed as well. Yeah, we've been over that. But what I will actually say on that, to be fair, somebody asked earlier, and I completely forgot to answer it. You've just reminded me about Bottas yesterday and whether he was doing it, and nobody's picked up on it. As far as I know, he wasn't doing that yesterday. So that's as far as I know. I didn't remember seeing anything on any onboards. I think if he was doing it yesterday, I think people would have picked up on it and we'd have had all the fuss yesterday. So as far as I know, no, he wasn't. It's something we spotted today or that's been done today. And I think the fact that Mercedes, it's obviously legal because I don't think Mercedes will be showing it like that if it wasn't legal. But yeah, are you two all right just to answer a couple of comments while I just nip off for a very quick break?
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. I'll be as quick as I can.
So if you got any questions, then please send them in the chat. We'll answer them as well as we.
Yeah, I was just going to throw in a comment about the whole Mercedes DAS system, and yeah, it's interesting why they didn't show it yesterday, but they're bringing it out today. I'm wondering what the reasoning behind that is.
Yeah, it's a bit strange because they won't have changed anything between yesterday and today, but maybe it was just that they didn't want to drop the bombshell of having this innovative new steering wheel on the first day, maybe. But it is a bit strange. Maybe they want to grab the headlines of day two rather than day one. It might have got brushed over a little bit more, but you never know with this.
Yeah, I'm just quickly reading a tweet out here. This I think is from a German auto build. The German article here says Red Bull thinks that the DAS system is not legal. Helmut Marko said if you actively change the toe of the wheels while driving, the contact surface of the tire changes, and thus even in a very very low range, the ground clearance. So this whole steering wheel system, definitely the argument's not over.
Yeah, I'm sure it would define the season. Certainly the first half of the season. Like the big teams will be trying to get it banned for as long as they can. Really, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, interesting. I'm wondering if it'll come out or if Mercedes will say anything as to why they didn't run it the first day. And we'll have to check out in the next couple of days if they're going to run it tomorrow and next week as well.
I imagine they'll just stick with it now if they're going to commit to it for the season. Then like, there's no point in hiding it at this point. Everyone sort of knows what it is, so they'll probably stick with it from here onwards.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's very very interesting to see how it's going to play out. All right, let's see some of these questions here. Here's an interesting one. Do you think the junior formula should have a cost cap too, considering to get 40 points it costs a lot now?
I think they pretty much do have a cost cap because obviously in F2 and F3 at least the cars are stock. Like cars are all manufactured by the same companies, and they
Right.
just give them to the teams and let them run with it. But there's not much difference that the teams can really do other than like the setup of the cars and everything, which doesn't cost any money. That's just how you set it up. So I feel like I don't think spending is that big of an issue in the lower categories, but perhaps I don't know. Maybe employing the drivers. If you're paying drivers way too much in the lower categories, then that could be unfair. But other than that, I don't really know where the main costs would be, especially the cost differential from one team to another. Like they've got all the same cars, all the same equipment that are given to them by the FIA. So I'm not sure how much of a price differential there is between the different teams in F2 and F3.
Yeah. Would you want to see something like that in Formula One where all the cars are pretty much standardized and the teams don't really have much of a say in it? It's almost like the FIA just hands them the car and says, only thing you can change are the tires and the driver that you put in the cockpit.
Not at all. I think the innovation and the team sport aspect of it is one of the most attractive things about Formula One. Like we wouldn't be having this discussion about the Mercedes steering wheel system if all the steering wheels were the same. Like I think the innovation and the genius people in the factories like working stuff out and applying them to the cars is one of the main factors of Formula One that's really attractive.
Hmm.
So if they were to get rid of that and hand everyone a stock car, that'd be really bad. I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. Another question on live chat here from Breezy. How soon do you think it would take other teams to integrate the DAS system if it is legal and proves to be a big competitive advantage? I know I just mentioned at the top of the stream that Racing Point said it would take them probably around 6 months or so to be able to integrate the system. Now, a team like Ferrari and Red Bull that have a lot more money and more development might be able to do it quicker, but it doesn't seem like it's something that you can necessarily just put right on the car right away and it'll work.
Yeah, no, we're saying like you were saying the 6 month might be a little bit exaggeration, and also 6 months from now is what summer break really, and there's only like 8 more races after that. So our team's really gonna spend all the time on effort on putting that onto their car rather than just focusing on the season after, especially if it's a
Right.
massive advantage. Then like it's sort of a write off if you don't have it from the start, really.
I'm sat here listening. I really want to just go boo. Thank you for that, guys. Appreciate that. I've just been on Twitter as well. I don't know if you've seen this. Helmut Marko. If you actively change the toe of the wheels while driving, the contact surface of the tyres changes, and thus, even if a very, very low range, the ground clearance, and this is prohibited because the system then corresponds to the operation of an active suspension, which is not allowed. So Red Bull think DAS is illegal.
Yeah, we
The
did go
plot
over
Yep.
that while you were
thickens.
gone.
That's fine, yeah. I just thought I'd mention it just in case. But yeah, plot thickens on that one. Do we trust Helmut Marko? No.
I don't know.
Not sure.
He was the one that told us they'd keep Gasly in the seat, so maybe not.
Yeah, I did a video on the Tuesday saying that Helmut Marko said that he was safe for now, and then 2 days later I'm doing a video that Gasly's been replaced.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yes. I was reading through Twitter, a lot of mentions on there. Stuff to go with. People asking about Imola possibly returning. I don't know what you guys think about that. I think we all kind of agree. Or you two might not, but the right thing to do is to postpone China. This Imola thing, do you reckon it's just a bit of pipe dreaming, Chris? I mean, even the circuit organisers have said it's mission impossible. I mean, we'd love to see a classic track back, but it's a bit short notice, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I saw the rumors as well too, but then when you go into the article, the organizer's like, well, it's going to be almost impossible to do. So I'm not sure why it made so many headlines. They just threw it out there. So I don't really think it would be possible to even have it at a different track. Either you postpone the Chinese Grand Prix and you do a shortened weekend like they've suggested already, or you just cancel it altogether and make it a 21 race calendar. I think it's pretty hard to just try and organize a race at a circuit that's not being regularly used for Formula One.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the fact the organisers have basically said no,
Yeah,
despite applying. What do you reckon, Jamie?
Also, like the gap where China is now vacating is like end of April, is it, or
Middle
it's
of
somewhere
April, I
around
think,
that
isn't
time?
it?
Yeah, so there's no way that a track is going to be like up to scratch to host an F1 race in 2 months, and also that they'll sell any kind of a good amount of tickets in 2 months as well. Like we saw, I remember when Kota was coming into sport, they announced it like in 2010, and it was like not ready for at least one full year, and then it was barely ready for like most of 2012 as well. I feel like it was quite a rush job at the end, but it takes a long time to get these circuits up to scratch. So yeah, I don't see any circuit replacing, barring perhaps like Germany, because that one is literally ready to go already. But it won't replace it in April. I think if they do replace it, it'll be later in the season, or just bring China back later in the season if the situation has died down a little bit.
Yeah, I suppose the trouble is if you were to say, let's say Imola happens or Sepang by magic decide they're going to host a race in April, and then they reschedule China as well. That's a 23 race season all of a sudden.
right.
Yeah.
So I don't think so. I don't think so. James Howe in chat. Yeah, I've seen your messages. Don't worry. If you want to send me an explanation, feel absolutely free. The PayPal information below, that is the email address for the channel as well. So if you want to send an email over, if it's easier than popping it in chat, that's fine. I might not be able to get to it today, but we can discuss it tomorrow as well. So if you want to do that, that's absolutely cool. So it's email address down below with the PayPal information. They're just interviewing on TV at the minute Charles Leclerc, or as I'm calling him this year, if you're at Autosport, you'll know what I mean, salmon and vegetables. I know you shouldn't do that with people's accents, I know, but it was quite funny when he said it. I was like, what the hell is salmon and vegetables? I was like, oh, yeah, there we go. Sorry. Bless him.
Actually, sorry to cut you off. Just on Charles Leclerc, I was just reading a tweet. This is from an account on Twitter at Vettel Leclerc about a new clutch paddle on Leclerc's steering wheel. I know we're talking a lot about steering wheels today, but they've sort of created a case for the fingers on the clutch paddle, which is completely different from last season when it was completely flat. So just kind of interesting that they've done a little bit of a modification to the clutch paddle on the steering wheel.
Yeah, just on steering wheels as well. Sorry, I was looking at a picture there, so he sent me. They got the Mercedes into the pits and they literally took the steering wheel off the second it stopped. So they are proper secretive about that. It's gonna be. I just think the whole thing's gonna be fascinating in the next few days and weeks. See what's going on. F1 debrief over on Twitter. Awesome to follow if you want your stint lengths and laps and whatnot. Bottas on the C2 on his third race sim stint. 19.5, 20.4, 21.6, 19.3, 20.6, 22.0, 19.9, 19.9, 20.4 and in. So pretty good stint there. Much more consistent on his second stint. A lot of 21.3s and 21.4s in there. Again, like I said, that was one of the concerns from people yesterday, was that his pace wasn't just good, consistently good. I think Mercedes are looking very promising, which is it's going to upset a lot of non-Mercedes fans for this year. Are probably not going to watch now until 2021. Do not take what I say as gospel, for God's sake. Probably the best season I've ever seen a Mercedes at 10th or something like that. So some good stuff there. Not a lot changing timing-wise. Perez still the fastest, 116 laps. Albon's now 108, Gasly 131, Russell 101. So that is 4 teams through the 100 already. Just on that, Vettel's done 52, Leclerc did 49. That's now over 100. Mercedes surely they've got to be there now, very nearly 200. Bottas in the pits though, and the garage door's apparently coming down, so he might not be out again. That was the last information on Twitter. Ocon's done 31 laps this afternoon. Do you know what, actually? With Norris doing 123, Raikkonen 116 and Grosjean 140, I'm tempted to say Renault have only done, 72 laps. I know they had their problems this morning, but See, teams like Renault and McLaren to me need the laps, but Mercedes don't, and there they are at nearly 200, and you've got Renault down on 72. So, won't read too much into it. Obviously, it's only testing, but I hope they get some more laps in over the next few days and show some good pace. I'd like to see Renault in the fight. I don't know what you two think. I'd like to see them challenging the top three like they keep saying they're going to.
I'd like to see all 10 teams very close to the fight, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I'd be surprised if Renault make the step forward that they keep saying they're going to make. But having followed them quite closely for the last 3 years, all they seem to do is let people down. So I don't know. I'd be a little bit surprised.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Renault's probably the team that consistently irritates me the most. So if they don't do well this year, I guess that's good because there'll be a lot to rant about. But I do hope for their sake that they can at least challenge McLaren for best of the rest, or whether it's Racing Point. But just the way they started off this season with the fake car launch that they had, I for a second thought that they weren't even going to have a car ready for testing. So I'm not exactly sure what that whole launch was about. Um, that's all internal, I guess, for them and how they wanted to do it. But good news that they at least had a car to present at testing. But they're a team that just frustrates me the most, being as big a manufacturer as they are and being a works team and just consistently being disappointing. It's a shame because Renault's another legendary F1 team who've won multiple world championships, and they're just coming so short of that now.
Well, Cyril Abiteboul said that they didn't show a car at the launch because, number one, parts were still being put together and ready for shipping and it was in bits, but also because they didn't want to present a fake show car for people like me, for example, to sit and try and pick them apart. And I was like, do you know what? I kind of appreciate that. And then I thought about it, and they showed fake renders of a fake car with a fake livery.
Right.
It's like you've kind of, you're conflicting messages there, Cyril.
It really did piss me off because like we went to the Racing Point launch last year and we drove a solid 5 hours in a snowstorm to go to that car launch, and we saw a real car. Now, granted, it was the 2018 car with some modifications, but there was still a real live Formula One car there. So you can imagine like members of the media that maybe traveled a couple hours to this launch, and all they saw was a Microsoft PowerPoint presentation of a car that doesn't even exist.
Bizarre. Because that was my thing on Twitter the other day. Like people complaining about the Ferrari launch. I was like, well, at least they're doing something. But then at the same time, I like the way Williams revealed their car this year, because they just sent a video out, switched the engine on basically, made some noise and showed the car off. I quite like that, but also, you don't have to have the circus like Ferrari did. You don't have to have a bizarre fashion show like AlphaTauri had, but do something rather than just some crap renders that you can't even work out.
I'll tell you what, I really enjoyed McLaren's launch. I think it was short and sweet, to the point. It was a quick intro. They rolled out the car right away, just a couple of words from the drivers, and that was it. I really enjoyed McLaren's launch.
I think if you're gonna, I think it was Stuart that said this on Twitter. It might have been Hazel actually. It was one of the two. If you're going to put or stream your car launch on platforms like Twitter and YouTube, where, with respect to everybody, and we're all guilty of it, attention spans aren't always the best. You need to be to the point. And I think what Ferrari and co could have done is get the covers off the car and then have all the interviews, like McLaren did, kind of what you were saying there, Chris, that they've shown the car, so those that just want to see the car can go, all right, I'm done. But then those that want to hear what Zach Brown, Lando Norris, and Carlos Sainz have got to say can stick around and watch that. Because I think the Ferrari launch viewers just started plummeting because people are on board now.
And a Mercedes one as well, with the 50-minute interview and then 10-minute ad break. It was just really boring.
For a livery that was in a badly lit room with a terrible carpet.
Yeah,
I'm no interior designer, but yeah.
They just released their livery on the Racing Point for this year, so.
Yeah.
And
basically, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty much what it was.
But I think the launches for me are getting irrelevant now. I mean, obviously next year, we're all going to be excited to see what these 2021 car looks like, who's gone in a different direction. But even then, if someone's come up with a double diffuser style solution, that's not going to be on the launch car. They're not going to want people to see that. So
Right.
I do think that they're kind of irrelevant now. And it's great, it builds hype. I enjoy doing the content around it, for example, because you get excited yourself because this is our first glimpse of the new season. But then after a couple, you realise it's entirely pointless because the cars aren't going to look like this at testing. Most of them are last year's car with a new livery on. I mean, that McLaren, they did a good launch, but that's not the same McLaren that was on that stage.
Yeah,
No, not at all.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a good marketing thing, and like you said, it brings good excitement. But again, I can appreciate Ferrari and Alpha Tauri's launch, and everybody's a bit different. Like for me, the fashion show, like I'm not a fashion person, so to me that just it wasn't interesting at all. But I do appreciate the effort that Ferrari went to and that Alpha Tauri went to release the car in such a kind of extravagant way. But for me personally, it was just a little bit too much. And Haas was probably like the most simplest car launch of all. They just posted it to Twitter and they were done.
Yeah. It's checking. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they'll make more of a fuss next year. I know there was talk of, I think Liberty Media wanted to get all 10 teams together and launch all the cars at the same time on the same day in the same place. I think I'd be up for that. I think it'd be cool. The problem is these events are less now for showing off the new car and more for showing the sponsors on the car.
Yeah, and complete sponsor pandering almost.
Yeah.
So if they get them all together, they have a lot less control about what they can do, and the teams would be very hesitant to agree to that, I feel like.
It's, a company that sponsors Renault aren't going to want their car at a launch sat next to another person's car who has a rival sponsor on there.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
It'd be great for us as fans, like a massive proper show event that we can all tune into for an hour. But like Jamie said, I can't see teams agreeing to it, so we'll see.
Yeah,
they
it'd be
can't
like
agree on anything.
yeah. But it could be like the Alpha Tauri launch, and instead of models coming out in jackets, you just have F1 cars one after another coming round and round, just driving circles.
With really weird hairstyles.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how much you saw of it, but I did wonder what the magnetic field was like around that AlphaTauri because all the hair was pulling one way. That was for sure.
I unfortunately had to watch it live, so I saw it all. I saw the weird handbags, which, by the way, did anybody notice that the models did not carry the handbags by the handles? Did anybody else notice that?
I wasn't watching, so I
I can't
couldn't tell
honestly
you.
say I did. But I'm going to go and have a look now. You might be paying too much attention, Chris.
I think I was. And I was talking about it in our last podcast. I'm like, did anybody notice how they were just grabbing the bags in weird positions? I'm like, there are handles on these things, people. Grab them by the handles. That's why they're there. So yeah, I watched too much of it, I guess.
I mean, I watched it all, and it was amusing. But I will look for a clip. And I shall be equally as outraged. Use your handles.
Yeah, right?
And Annette just saying there, some fans would moan, I remember when the Spice Girls. Yeah. Jamiroquai and the Spice Girls all in the same launch for McLaren.
Yeah.
Thrilling stuff. 97? Possibly.
Couldn't tell you. I wasn't born back then. So.
Oh, Jamie, no, don't do this, man. What time are we at? 4 o'clock. Are you all right, Chris, or do you need to?
I'm still good to go. I'm here till the end. I'm good.
Awesome stuff. I'll do a quick run through the order then, as kind of pointless it is at the moment. We're watching Lando Norris, I think, having been off track. He's going to be, yeah. All right, though. Car's fine. Still no red flag with an hour to go. Wow. But Sergio Perez, 123 laps at the moment. That's a satisfying number, 123. 117.347. Kimi Räikkönen second on a 117.535 at 122 laps. He's coming for you, Checo. He's still out there at the moment. Both drivers are actually. Yes, they are. Räikkönen on an outlap. Daniel Ricciardo, 117.749. 41 laps for him. He's in the pits because he's not driving this afternoon, Sean. Wake up. 117.9 for Alex Albon. 111 laps for him. Pierre Gasly, 118.121 in fifth place, 133 laps. George Russell in sixth, some more very good running for Williams, 118.266 at 107 laps. Vettel, 54 laps, 118.273. Leclerc in this morning, 118.335 with 49 laps. Lewis Hamilton did 106 laps this morning at 118.387. Lando Norris has done 127 now, just been off track, 118.4. Romain Grosjean also a 118.4, 146 laps. I keep getting surprised when I get to Rogro's lap counts. And Esteban Ocon is back out on track on a 118.557, 35 laps, and Bottas did 77 this morning. Bottas is still in the garage. They've pulled the doors down, I think, so they've got the floor off. That was the rule this morning. I got confused. It's not mechanical issues as such. They're only allowed to bring the garage doors down or put the screens across if they've got the floor off the car. So there are bits coming off that car, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah, but then teams will, I'm sure at some point they'll just take the floor off so they can get rid of they can bring the screens down and then do whatever they want with the screens down. But I don't know if any teams actually go to that level of effort just to hide whatever they're doing.
I mean, if they turn the cameras off, you can say you've taken your floor off.
Yeah.
Can we come check your car? Oh no, the floor's off. You can't get in at the minute. It's blocking the door. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad the screens have gone for this year. I think it's great if they're going to televise it. The screens had to go because you have to be able to see what's going on. However, as Ferrari have shown, if you've got enough staff, there are plenty of ways to cover that car. You don't need a screen. It was a 6 in front of it yesterday at one point. You know, human shields, basically. There you go. A couple of people mentioning Williams being ahead of a Ferrari. Let them enjoy it. Definitely let them enjoy it. I'm really quite positive for them. The car looks tidy. There's been a lot of good talk from Russell about it. The pace, remember last year, I know again it's only testing, but they did rock up 4 or 5 seconds off the pace when they eventually arrived. They've got good times. They're getting the mileage in. It's good stuff. Even if, I still think that they're going to be 10th this year. I don't think they're going to make a big jump, but if they're 10th, but a couple of tenths off the rest of the midfield, that is huge progress for Williams this year. I've got to be honest. I'm rooting for them, Jamie, this year. I really am. I want to see the underdog bounce back.
Yeah, and I feel like the testing times, at least, although we can't read too much into them, like Russell's time is literally a lot faster than what they did in qualifying last year. So its progress is definitely there. I just don't know quite how much, because it could be that they're running at full pace and everyone else is 1.5 seconds off their true pace. But
right.
That would be pretty tragic for Williams. But yeah, I would like to see him do well. Obviously, Russell got a lot of potential. It'd be nice for him to be able to show it. And Latifi also fresh start, like new chance to show that he's got something worth giving, because he's been in F2 for 4 years and never won the title, but got reasonably close last year. But I feel a lot of people writing him off before he's even started. It was nice to see him do quite well, but we'll have to wait and see how they do. Hopefully, they are able to show at least some of their true talent, rather than just being hampered by a car that's 3 seconds off the pace.
George Russell's fastest time in qualifying last year in Spain was a 1:19.0. He's on a 1:18.2 this year.
Yeah, he did an 18.1 yesterday as well in testing.
Yeah.
So,
and I know obviously compounds are different. Tyres, I think the tyres are the same, aren't they? Really, pretty much. But the compounds they've got access to are different. Weather is different. Track temperature is different. So you can't really get too excited. But on paper, just looking at times and taking nothing else into account, they're basically a second quicker than they were in qualifying last year.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think he set that time yesterday on a harder compound. I believe it was the C3 or the C2 versus what would have been the C4, I think, last year in qualifying. It was a soft compound in the qualifying. So I mean, that's reasonably good if they're almost a second quicker on a harder tire. That's good signs for Williams. Now the question is, if Williams makes an eighth or nine tenths of a gain, will that be enough to still compete with the likes of Alfa Romeo and Haas in front of them, who have maybe gained a couple of tenths upon where they were last year? So I think I agree with you that they're still going to be 10th, but they're going to be significantly better than they were last year. So scoring more points and maybe being able to get out of Q1 a lot more.
They definitely improved last year, didn't they? Because they were scrapping at times with Haas and Alfa Romeo towards the end of the season. So it would make sense that this car has just continued to evolve. But as I keep joking, they couldn't really have been much worse, could they? So
Yeah.
I'm
And
just looking. No, you go, mate. I'm just scrolling as I.
yeah. I was scrolling through Twitter. Was one interesting thing I wanted to get through, but also interesting now Vettel on the softer tire. So interesting to see he's on the C4 right now. So I'm not sure if he's going to go for a push lap. I'm not sure if it's a low fuel. My stream is a bit behind, so 3/10 off of Perez's time in Sector 1. So Ferrari might be trying to stretch their legs here a little bit near the end of testing, try and set a faster lap time.
Might try and find Russell's. I'm just having a scroll through F1 debrief to see if Russell's averages are there from yesterday. But everybody but, by the look of it. Latifi, that would be a good. I don't know what his best time was yesterday. Let's have a look at the. Let's pop it on very quickly. Latifi did a 1:18.382. So 1:18.3. Rid of that one because that was his. So 19.2, and then a slow down lap, then a 20.4, then a slow down lap, 21.2, 21.3, 21.6. So relatively consistent for Latifi there. Just on Latifi, actually, I'll do Russell first quickly. 1:18.1 was on a C3 run, which was his best time, wasn't it? Yeah, so 1:18.1, then it was 1:18.4, 1:22.8, 1:24, 1:20.5, 1:20.2. So they're not bad at all versus last year. I was just going to say on Latifi, and maybe I sort of agree, Jamie, that people are writing him off, and I'd probably say that I'm guilty of that as well. But I quite like Latifi, and I think he could surprise a few people this year. But I kind of put the Markelov argument forward. Is there a reason why he was in F2 so long before he got into Formula One? If he was as good as perhaps some want him to be, wouldn't he have got into Formula One sooner and not have to use the money to do it? But
Yeah,
then I
would
suppose that's the
agree.
argument with a lot of drivers on the grid, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Like if you're spending 4 years in F2 and the best you get is challenging for the title in your last year when the grid's kind of full of rookies, like there might be a reason why you're not getting in sooner. I don't expect to set the world alight, but I do hope he does well. Like I think we do better than Kubica did,
Yeah.
definitely.
I think Latifi's an interesting one because he started racing fairly late. Like a lot of these guys start karting when they're 7 or 8, but he started, I believe, when he was around 13 years old, 14 years old. So I think that's part of maybe the reason why he's a little bit of a late bloomer compared to George Russell and Lando Norris. But the other thing that everyone has to remember is he's been doing a lot of free practice sessions the last 2 seasons. I mean, I started following him back in 2017 when he was with Force India, and he was getting a couple of FP1 sessions there, and he did a lot of free practice sessions for Williams the last 2 seasons. So I think that he's more ready for Formula One than a lot of people think, and I think that that experience of doing those free practice sessions will help him a lot early on this season. So but I'm with you guys. I'm pulling for him a lot. And talking to him, he's a great guy, really knowledgeable. So hopefully that driver pairing for Williams will be really good this season.
I hope so. I mean, the thing is as well, I mean, Annette's just said there, Nico Hulkenberg won everything in the junior categories. Mustafa, he was hugely successful before getting to Formula One. And he... I can't say it. The car was crap. That's the first thing. The power unit was terrible. He didn't have the best of luck, and I think he deserves another shot. But he wasn't exactly brilliant, was he? Was poor stuff. There were reasons, but he wasn't. So just because you have a good, successful junior career doesn't mean you're going to succeed in Formula One. Equally, just because you don't have a particularly stunning junior career, it doesn't mean you won't succeed in Formula One. So
Yeah, like Max Verstappen never
Yeah.
actually won anything. Obviously, he didn't spend much time in the lower categories, but he was beaten to the F3 title by Ocon, I believe. So, and he's doing all right for himself now. So,
Max
Hey.
who?
Even like when you look at Lance Stroll, for example, I mean, he didn't do any F2. I believe he did what was F3 at the time. I know he won a lot of races in that category, but first season in F1, gets a podium, gets a couple of good finishes. So yeah, a lot of these drivers kind of take these different routes, but definitely junior success doesn't necessarily translate to success at the highest level.
Two questions from Atish, and I am going to read them both, but these are just my interpretations of an answer. If you guys want to correct me if I'm wrong, it's totally fine. But it says, we can't read into times between teams, but can we compare times within teams? I would say no, because, Russell did an 18-1 and Latifi did whatever his time was, but we don't know which program each driver was running. Latifi might have had more fuel on board. He might have been on a different setup. They might have been doing different runs. Russell might have been doing. Russell could be 2 seconds a lap quicker than Latifi, or Latifi could be a second lap quicker than Russell. We can't really compare in testing the times between teammates. It's probably easier to get a comparison. But you never know what program has been run when, so it's kind of difficult to do that. The other question was back to the B spec that we've talked about a lot today. Said, what's the point of bringing an A spec to testing if you're going to be running a B spec throughout the season? This is the one I kind of don't know what you two think. I believe that is simply because if you run your A spec week 1 and your B spec week 2, you can compare the two, work out which is doing better and which bit on which car is doing better, and then essentially get a final spec or pick a final spec for Australia.
yeah, we saw it. We saw that last year with Mercedes. They bought what they said was an awful midfield level car to the first week, and they were like, "Oh no, Ferrari are going to win this season." And then the second week, they rock up with the much better. I think it's a new nose design and new suspension and everything, and then suddenly they're top of the field again. So yeah, A and B spec, obviously, they don't want to spend too much money developing two completely different cars. I mean, you're not going to use one of them. But if the car isn't quite ready, for also with some of the lower teams might not have the 2020 car completely ready yet, then they bring last year's car with a few upgrades on for the first week just to get the laps on the board and the drivers back into the swing of things, I feel like.
This is what's interesting with the whole Mercedes steering wheel thing is, first of all, will it work on all different types of tracks? Obviously, Barcelona has a good mix of low speed corners, high speed corners, but will it work in a street track, for example, like Monaco? So it's kind of interesting with the way that they're testing the parts and to see if it works. And I mean, who knows? They might not even bring it to Melbourne, but I think it's not a bad idea if the teams have the opportunities to run two different kinds of specs of cars. And then, like you said, to compare the data at the end before Melbourne and then see which one they're going to go with.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously more to it than that, isn't there, than we know. But from sort of our point of view, that's how I view it. But I know Ferrari have got the B spec next week. Mercedes, I assume, are going to bring a new aero package to the second test. They tend to, but they've already said, curiously, that there will be no major changes between the second test and Australia. So we're not going to get next year, like last year where they turned up with a brand new car in Melbourne. We're not going to get that. So whatever Mercedes are doing next week is essentially what they've got. But if this week's anything to go by, I think there are going to be some souls crushed in Formula One very soon.
Yep.
But yeah,
It's just interesting. I'm scrolling through Twitter, just kind of jumping around in different topics. I know in terms of new racetracks on the F1 calendar, Miami's been being thrown around, but apparently press conferences. This is coming from Thomas Marr on Twitter. Give him a shout out. Apparently, there's a press conference being held in Miami today to confirm Miami Gardens residents have filed a lawsuit against Formula One and the Hard Rock Stadium, which is where they want to hold the race. So for now, it's based on noise ordinances, but will also include environmental justice. So Miami GP looks like it's still not 100% confirmed. There's a lot of opposition going on there in Miami against that race.
I think it's going to end up like the New Jersey race they were going to have years ago. Now I just don't think it's ever going to
Yeah,
happen.
good point. I
I
think
just
it
don't
will
think
be
it's
like
ever going
that.
to happen.
I don't really get why they're so fixated on it either, because
No.
we've got plenty of street tracks, like tracks in cities now with like the likes of Hanoi and Melbourne, obviously, people tracks like this. So why have another one? I don't know why they're so desperate for a track in Miami.
I think it's just like a crazy party city and just so much money to be made.
Yeah, I suppose it always comes down to money in Formula One.
Right. Yeah.
I just sort of. There's so many good tracks in America. Go to one of them.
Yeah, I
know?
couldn't agree more.
I don't know.
Well, they're doing it with a lot of other tracks around the world too. There's so many legendary purpose-built racing tracks, but then they're building all these new street tracks, whether it's in Baku or I heard Saudi Arabia is proposing a race as well. So I'd love to see a return more to the classic tracks, whether we're talking about Hockenheim or the Nürburgring or some of the American ones like Watkins Glen or Laguna Seca, for example. So
Oh,
yeah,
sorry guys, I got somebody in the wall there. It's
we're
Is it Roman
of course
Grosjean,
it
baby?
is.
yeah.
It's Roman Grosjean. I don't know if he's hit
You're
the
kidding.
wall. It was Grosjean. He's out. He's out the gravel, so he's got going. Are we going to get away without a red flag? There's damage to the back of that car. He's definitely hit his rear wing. Oh, he had to be Grosjean. Oh, the smugness on my face. I'm joking. We'll wait for a replay of that. It
Oh.
looks like he's just gone in at turn 4 backwards.
My stream just caught up.
$40 minutes to go. No red flag as yet. It's all about what debris he's got back on the track, I guess, with gravel and things. Here we go. Replay. It is into, I think that's turn 4. Back end goes away. Round he goes. And it's a nothing, really. He's nerfed the wall. I'm sure he's damaged his rear wing.
Yeah, the right end plate on the rear wing's gone. So he'll have to. That'll be it for Haas today, definitely.
That's his running done. It's not a big accident or anything. He's lost it, and he's sort of tagged the wall. It's not a huge impact or anything, and then he's got out. But yeah, first crash of testing. Roman Grosjean, of course.
158 laps was too much to ask for today for Grosjean to do without incident.
Yeah. I immediately went to Chris Medlin's Twitter page to see if he's going to post that red flag gif, but unfortunately we couldn't get it.
It looks like we're going to stay green. I was just going to say, we were talking about racetracks in America. John T just shouted Barber in chat. I assume that's a racetrack and he's not had his hair cut.
That's right.
But yeah.
Barber Motorsport Park. I believe it's in Alabama, if I'm not mistaken. Could be completely off.
Sorry, I was looking at the damage there to Grosjean's car. You're right, Jamie, ain't getting out again. It'll take half an hour to change the rear wing, won't it? Without doing anything else. So, yeah.
There is a flood of I think Ericsson hit us comments coming through right now.
I mean, to be fair to Grosjean, 157 laps. It's a good outing. So even with the crash, he's still got the laps in they probably needed. So it's not a huge loss to Haas, but.
See, this is what I was saying earlier, where I'm concerned for Gunter Steiner's health. His blood pressure's probably through the roof right now on the pit wall. Poor guy. I mean,
I
can't
hope
just
Netflix
have.
got the cameras there, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, when your stream catches up, you'll see the interesting face he just pulled when he saw the incident. But yeah, not a big impact if you're not able to watch on TV. Just kind of gone in at turn 4. Back end's got 4. Back end's got away and he's tagged the wall, but he's okay. Car's damaged, not going out again, but like I say, 157 laps. There you go. I couldn't help but laugh then. I'm sorry. Again, no genuine issue with Grosjean. It's just to wind Dan up, but just of all the people that could have been the first to crash, it had to be him.
We're probably not the only ones who were thinking about it.
No.
I mean, we saw, which episode was it last year in Drive to Survive, where I think the Renault engineers were like, well, I'd be surprised if Grosjean makes it through the first corner.
Yeah, that was a Spanish Grand Prix one, wasn't it? How many corners do Grosjean crashes?
Yeah.
We've only got 3 cars out on track at the minute as well, Raikkonen, Albon and Vettel, so it's quiet, and somehow Vettel and Raikkonen have found each other on track. Not much happening really out there, to be honest. I'll read you the laps quickly. Raikkonen's now fastest. I missed that, watching all the Grosjean fun, at 1:17.0. So Alpha, champions confirmed. 129 for him, 131 for Perez, 121 for Albon, 123 for Gasly, 110 for Russell, 106 for Hamilton, 127 for Norris, 157 for Grosjean. So Ocon, has he been back out again yet? I think he did.
Yeah, he went off at one point at turn 3. I think it was just a reconnaissance lap.
But yeah, I mean, on the track thing, I think we've got enough street tracks. We don't need a Miami. Formula E are the street racers. Let them be the street racers. It's not, you don't have to keep on all purpose-built tracks. Keep Monaco and things like that. But Hanoi, we'll see how that is this year. But then there's talk of Miami, and there's a street race here and a street race there, and you've got some great tracks around the world.
Yeah,
And I wish we were I know the owner of Sepang, I keep saying it because of this whole China thing. But I know they don't want F1 and they can't afford it, but that's an incredible track. The track in India is incredible. South Korea, fantastic racetrack. It's just a shame they can't get the fans to those tracks.
Even Istanbul Park in some ways,
great track. Yeah,
I know politically it's probably not possible at the minute in Turkey, but
no,
there are so many great tracks around the world. They're just examples. So why are we trying to force a race in Miami when you could go to the list that Jonty's just put out? I'll read you some of them. Let's have a look. Where are you, Jonty? Barber, Watkins Glen, Sebring, Daytona, Laguna Seca, Road America, Road Atlanta. There's so many great tracks in America. Let's use one of them instead of having to build a track around a bloody stadium that's going to upset a load of people in Miami. That's the other thing. If you want to grow the reputation of F1 in Miami, probably in the US, it's not the best first step to piss an entire city off, is it?
Yeah,
Let's be
seriously.
honest.
Yeah. Well, and there's other tracks, too. Like South Africa's been one that's sort of been in conversation as of late. So many different ones that they could go to, but yeah, like some street tracks are great. Like the new generation ones, like Baku has provided us with some exciting races, but yeah, too much street tracks. It's not necessarily built for Formula One cars, and we have Monaco, which is the original street race, and that's great. But I would love to see a return to more of the classic tracks. Any one of those that Jonty mentioned, for example, would be excellent.
People want a lot. Do you know a lot of people when I do live streams and things are always talking about Kyalami and they really want a South African Grand Prix again. I suggested that the '92 South African Grand Prix was the first race I ever watched. So from a personal point of view, it'd be great to see that racetrack back. But I don't know what state of repair that's in. I assume it would need some work doing to it. But that's the argument with Imola. They're on about wanting to host a race in April, but they're then saying, well, we'd need to build this and we'd need to do that. And you're like, well, come on then. You've only got 8 weeks.
Yeah,
Crack on.
seriously.
I do feel like having a racetrack in Africa will be a good step for F1 because obviously it hasn't been one since Kyalami fell off the calendar. I don't think anyway. So if it's in Marrakesh or Egypt or something, I don't know. But I think Bernie was trying to do that for quite a few years, try and get a track in South Africa or in Africa generally somewhere. But that'd be really cool to get F1 as the fully global sport because there's only 5 continents so far, which isn't really good enough for a global sport.
Yeah. The problem is though, you're probably going to have to lose some more European. Well, no, I say that. There are plenty of tracks that aren't in Europe that are bloody terrible that we shouldn't be racing at. But then there are some European races that I'd be happy to see the back of. From a historic and nostalgic point of view, absolutely keep the Hungaroring. From a racing point of view, off you go.
Yep.
I think it's
Sochi,
just
get rid of that
great.
as well.
Oh,
Sochi,
yes, please.
yeah.
How about the one we're watching right now?
Yeah, I wouldn't be upset if this was to go.
I was relieved when they said they weren't renewing that thing.
Tell you what,
good.
though, I'd love to see a return to the Valencia street circuit.
That's horrific.
I hate that track.
I do really
Sorry,
like to drive
Chris.
it, but no, I mean the state it's in now. Have you seen pictures? It's like an absolute wasteland. It's quite interesting and to see, but yeah, there's no way that's coming back anytime soon.
I mean, I feel like this is just something I repeated all last year on live streams when it comes to the Spanish Grand Prix. Use it for testing because that track is perfect for testing. Like you said, Chris, lots of high speed and low speed corners, a nice long straight. It's a really good place to test your car all round. I think it was Dave Richards that said, we're going back a bit here, 1999 I think it was, about Barcelona, that it will expose a bad car. So it's the perfect track for testing. The problem is, because they do so many miles around it, they know it so well. So when we get to the Spanish Grand Prix, it's always a bit pants, because literally they know everything about the track. So you're not going to get amazing, exciting, close racing. So get rid of it, keep it for testing, and go somewhere else. I think the European races are important, but I don't think history and all of that, tradition should save a race. I don't think, but we've always gone to Barcelona. It doesn't matter. It's not good for racing. Let's go to Sepang. Let's go to India. Let's go back to South Korea, whatever. Tracks like that, let's go to other continents, like you were saying, Jamie. Just because it's in Europe and because it was on the calendar for so many years doesn't mean it should still be there. And I still think Monaco, I stand by what I said in my video a couple of years ago about Monaco being axed. I don't want to see it go. It's crap for racing. Make it a standalone event. Make a big fuss over it. The Monaco 1000 or whatever, or the Monaco 100, have 100 laps around Monaco as a standalone event. Big fuss around it.
I don't know what it is, but I do actually really like Monaco, the whole race weekend.
Oh, yeah.
It just feels like such a celebration of F1 almost. So I would not want to see it go, but I do agree that you barely see overtakes really. But the tension last year with Verstappen seemingly having the faster car versus Hamilton and being on it, although it was ruined a bit by the 5-second penalty he had, but that was such a good race last year, I feel like. And it's not good for people who love to see the cars drive past each other, but realistically, a track like Russia where all you're doing is going past each other in a straight line, that's also not very interesting. So seeing the intensity and the focus that drivers have, I do think that has a place on the calendar. So I would not want to see Monaco go personally, but I do understand why people are not fans of it.
Yeah, like I say, I wouldn't get rid of it, but I'd maybe make it a standalone event and make a big, like the Indy 500.
Yeah.
But for Monaco, just make it a big fuss around it. We've got some drama. Lando Norris going up the inside of an AlphaTauri. Lando was trying to come in the pit lane there, and the AlphaTauri, which will be Gasly, was sort of getting out his way, and then, cut across him, but nothing major. They were doing about 6 miles an hour, so it's fine. But sorry, Chris. I was just going to say, overtaking in Monaco, there are plenty of purpose-built tracks where we see no overtaking, so it's not necessarily
seriously. Yeah, I've always got I went to Monaco a few years ago, so I always kind of got a soft spot for it. It's probably one of my favorite places in the world, but it's hard to ignore that the races aren't really that exciting, and pretty much the race is decided on the Saturday in qualifying, and unless you crash or there's a pit stop mistake, for example, with Ricardo in 2016, you're kind of going to go out to win the race. So there might need to be some changes, like you mentioned, to make it a 100 style event where it's a celebration or a one-off different type of thing.
Do you know what? Findlay in chat there just talking about the circuit they're building in Wales. I do feel like we need an up-to-date FIA grade circuit other than Silverstone in the UK, because I think that would give Silverstone a boot up the backside. F1 would be able to go, you need to bring your facilities up to scratch, and they will be like, oh, well, no, I don't want to. And at least F1 could turn around and go, well, we'll go to this new track over here, then have a British Grand Prix there. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like having another option in the UK would just give, because I love Silverstone. We often get amazing racing there. The atmosphere, I don't know if you've ever been to the British Grand Prix.
No, I went to qualifying once or twice, 8 or 9 years ago, but not since then.
But even for just quali, the atmosphere is great. It's a fantastic weekend. But the grandstands all look temporary. It's not got the best facilities in the world. And, for a track that old, and that is really one of the best circuits we've got from an FIA point of view, they need to be upgrading it. I think Bernie, I hate using Bernie's example, but I think he said around the time that Sepang or China were built, the racetracks, not the countries. He's not that old. I think he was saying that Silverstone could take a leaf out of their book, or should take a leaf out of their book. So I'd love to see the facilities get an upgrade, but I don't think Silverstone will spend any money unless there's a genuine threat it's going to go. Because all of that last year, by the way, All of that was just to try and drive the price down and then sell more tickets because it might be the last one. That was never going anywhere.
Interesting marketing strategy.
It worked because it sold out. I couldn't get.
Yeah. Seriously.
Because
I was actually. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I was going to leave it till last minute because I thought I might get a better deal on camping and stuff, and then they were like, I went to the website, I was like, we're sold out. I was like, oh, okay, I'll just go for the race then. They're like, the race is sold out. I was like, what?
Wow,
Didn't
that's
do that
crazy.
last year.
Yeah. I was interesting. I was reading one of the chat comments here from Severson. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. They could turn the Triple Crown into the motorsport version of the Grand Slam in tennis, which it's an interesting kind of suggestion. If F1 did something like that, obviously it'd be pretty complicated, but kind of have like four special events like you do the Grand Slams in tennis. So Monaco could be one, for example, and maybe some other different types of tracks that all count toward the regular season in terms of the points and everything, but are just sort of these special grand events.
That'd be quite a cool idea. Like have, I don't know, Macau is quite a one-off event as well, and stuff like
Yeah,
that. You want obviously want a mix of tracks because those two are pretty like both street tracks and both extremely narrow. But I don't know if teams would sign up for that. Obviously, you have to have quite a big prize money. But even if it's just you take like the cars from the previous year and just get a bunch of the drivers along to have a bit of fun, it'd be quite an interesting watch, definitely.
yeah, for sure.
Just trying to think what the four tracks would be. I think Monaco's a definite, isn't it?
Yeah.
Silverstone, it was the first one from a historical point of view. Maybe
Yeah,
Yeah, and you'd probably throw
Spa?
Monza in there as well.
Yeah, Monza. We could name so many. Here we go.
Yeah.
Well, no, 25. Yeah, Spa
We
and
should
Monza.
maybe just have like 20 tracks and have a full season out of it or something.
Yeah.
I was still I threw around the idea last year of F1 holding some sort of an all-star event. You know, you see these other sports like the NBA hold all-star games and things like that. It would be cool if F1 did something similar, even if it was just all 20 drivers in go-karts or something like that. You know, it'd be fun if there was some sort of an all-star fantasy type weekend in Formula One.
Yeah. I mean, like they do things like they get the classic cars out for little classic races. But I know what you mean. It'd be great to have a proper all-star weekend. It just make a bit more fuss, try and promote the sport a bit more in a more interesting way than just.
Yeah,
But I think the problem is we can come up with these great ideas, but with a 22 race calendar, where'd you put everything?
yeah,
This is the trouble, isn't it? They're Premier Leaguing Formula One. That's what they're trying to do.
right. Oh, yeah, and you know, any of these suggestions will never happen,
No.
obviously, but you know, it's possible because if you look at the last couple of years in Abu Dhabi when we get to the final race and the championship's not on the line, I actually really enjoy seeing all the drivers like super relaxed. The teams are a little bit more relaxed, and you can kind of have fun with it and enjoy the sport a little bit more. So it'd be nice to see that sort of a F1 exhibition, even if it's just for one day, to kind of get a different side of the drivers and to just kind of have a more celebration of the sport, more like the other sports do it as well.
I feel like they have the opportunity to do that with the Race of Champions. They do like in January each year. I watched
Right?
it
Yeah.
last year, assuming not knowing much about it, assuming it's actually just a race of the drivers together, like having a bit of fun. But then it just wasn't. It was this weird time trial thing. So they could just do that where they get a bunch of like the previous year's cars that obviously aren't going to get used anymore unless you've Racing Point, and then just sticking them all together and having a race with a bunch of the drivers there. Like obviously it wouldn't count for anything, but it'd be a bit of fun, like something to
Yeah.
make the winter go by a bit quicker. It'd just be quite interesting.
I'm gonna go to chat. I think for the last 20 minutes. Jack says, "Are you coming to Silverstone this year?" I think I'll need a bit more money, mate. I might have to accept that donation you put in. I will be, but you won't be. Yeah, I'd like to, but it just it'll depend on how money is. To be honest, I didn't get to go last year, so I was foul all weekend. I'm not gonna lie, I was so grumpy all that because everybody was like, "Oh, here we are at Silverstone." I'm like, just get lost. Leave Twitter for the weekend. Don't ever want to look at it again. Monaco is boring, says Triple X. I think we can all agree the racing tends to be. Oh, yes. IM3 GTR, how do you think 65563 Dash did yesterday? He did all right. We were talking about him earlier, actually. We're just trying to work out how to get... You two are going to be very confused by that, I just realised. That's Latifi. The official timing yesterday didn't have Latifi's name on it on the actual F1 timing, and he was down as 65563 Dash.
Oh, wow.
That's what I'm calling
Very
Latifi this year.
professional.
Really weird name. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him this season. I need to refresh the chat now. It's all gone and crashed on me again. Even with a better PC, it's live streaming for so long does put some bloody strain on it. I tell you that. It's not even doing anything particularly amazing. It's just showing some live timing. But yeah, try putting all the F1 drivers into F1 cars for a race, says Hugh. I am totally down for that one. I think that'd be great. Or just identical cars. I'd quite like that for a race as a one-off. Get them all on identical cars around a pretty standard track and see what happens. I think we get the answer to a few questions on there, which would be nice. So we could all start speculating who's better in Equal Machinery. You watch it with Stroll. Heard it here first. Jack Webb, do you think Perez will finish in the 7th in the Drivers' Championship? I mean, he's driving a year-old Mercedes, so you'd expect them to. I think Racing Point, prior to releasing their pink Mercedes, I think they were in for a shot of top 4. I really, really do. They were very confident. They've got the money behind them. They've had a proper... Obviously, they had all that fuss, didn't they, in the winter when they nearly collapsed as Force India and became Racing Point, and that set them back for last year. So they've had time to get the car right. We know they always punch above their weight. They're one of those teams. So I actually do think, Chris, that Racing Point, prior again to seeing what they've done with the car, or haven't done with the car, I think they're in with a shot of challenging for that top 4.
I think they've got a really good shot. Last year at the launch, they were really optimistic as well. Perez said the same thing, that they were hoping for 4th, and hoping for some podiums and things like that. But I think this year they got a better shot of it with the extra year of Lawrence Stroll being with the team and putting all that money into it. I think that behind the scenes, in terms of staff and all that things, they've sorted it out so they can kind of start 2020 on the front foot instead of being on the back foot last year. And we're already seeing it just by judging how many laps they did. If you remember last year to winter testing, they were the second worst team in terms of lap count, right behind Williams. And that was because they didn't have a lot of the parts ready until Melbourne. They came up with a completely different car from Melbourne, so we're already seeing them ahead of where they were last year. So Force India / Racing Point always have been a team that's punched above their weight. So I think they got a legit shot with it, and especially with Perez as well. And hopefully Stroll will be able to improve his qualifying, because if he doesn't improve his qualifying, I think it's going to be tough for Racing Point to get to that 4th.
Aaron Evans, thank you very much again for that contribution. Says, put them all in F2 cars in Macau. That's a weekend. I'd be up for that one. Super quickly, I will take some more comments in a second. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. Back again in the morning, 8:30 a.m. with Jonty and Jess until 12. And then we've got Aldas, 1:30 till 5. That could get Larry. Could be the most controversial stream of the week. Yes. Anyway, that's tomorrow afternoon. We're going to get a red flag here. Kimi Räikkönen stopped on track. Is this it? Why are we so excited about red flag? It's so wrong. Yep. Steering wheel is out. 17 minutes left. I think they might virtual safety car in testing. And that's a red flag. Oh, you suck, Barcelona. That's it. We have a red flag. I was going to say, yes, don't forget to subscribe as well if you're new. Great to have you. Drop a like on the video as well. Thank you for your contributions today. We have a red flag at last. Are we happy, everybody?
I can sleep well at night now.
Order has been resumed.
That'll probably be that for the day, would it? Or do you think they'll get it back in time?
I'm trying to work out where he is.
Seems like somewhere sector 3 maybe.
Is that just it? Look, I can't work out. It's like just before turn 9.
Seems like it was just a mechanical issue, though, right?
Hmm.
He didn't hit anything.
Yeah, there's no damage that I can see. Although the front wing always looks damaged on the
Yeah.
Alpha, doesn't it? Is that turn? I'll just zoom out. It might, or is it turn? It's 9 or 3. Although looking at all the gravel on the outside, it might. Yeah, it's just before turn 9. Yeah, car just it doesn't switch off. It just there we go. Yeah, anti-stall kicks in, and that's game over for Kimi. Red flag. They should be able to clear it quite quickly from there, so we might get the last 10 minutes. But he's in no rush, is Kimi. I mean, he's only ever rushing when he's driving the car, isn't he? He's never rushing any other time. That's a Ferrari engine. Full switch off, he's told over team radio. Yeah, Rhetorical Resources says Kimi tried to get the teams off work early. He wants to go over, he's had enough. Thank you, by the way, Rhetorical Resources, for becoming a member. I missed that. Great to have you here. And once again, I will try and sort out the membership thing on YouTube. I just keep forgetting it's a thing with Patreon and whatnot. But yes, I will get that sorted. Thank you very much. So what's Kimi done today? 134 laps, 1:17.0, fastest time. I think he'd be happy with that. To call it a day, pull over, go hide the steering wheel for 15 minutes.
He'll have time to go for an ice cream.
Yeah, I think it's a bit cold, actually, to be fair. I know it's Spain, but would that
Yeah,
bother Kimi?
How cold is it in Spain? Because it's about minus 20 degrees Celsius currently where I'm at. So
Wow, that is pretty cold.
I'm sat here in my office with my arms folded, shivering at 5 degrees. You're at minus 22.
listen, if it was 5 degrees, I'd be in shorts, probably no t-shirt.
Wow, minus 22. Us Brits do moan, don't we, Jamie? We're like, oh, it's so hot and it's 21
Yeah.
degrees, and everyone else like, it's 40 here, mate, all year round. And it's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
freezing, it's 5 degrees, and there's Chris in a woolly hat at minus 22.
We're only happy if it's anywhere between like 15 and 20, and the rest of it is either
20's
too
a bit
cold or
much,
too.
mate, come on. It's all we've got moaning, us Brits, to be fair. Kimi is from Finland. Good point, Thompson. So maybe the cold won't bother him at all. Maybe we'll have an ice cream. Why not? 13 minutes. They're taking forever to get it on the truck. That's for sure. So maybe not. Where's our wrenches? F1 drivers in Formula E cars around Monaco, says James Walton. Could be interesting. What do you guys like Formula E at all?
I tried watching the first race a couple of weeks ago, and watched 3 laps and couldn't handle it because they just kept crashing into each other. So it turned off. So no, I'm not a fan.
I just can't get behind the electricity. I mean, I started watching Formula One when it was the V10 engine, so I'm still on that V10 engine. Team V10 engine, that's where I'm on. So I don't think I can get behind Formula E.
I mean, the technology, to be fair, is phenomenal.
Super impressive, yeah. Very very cool, very interesting. I'm just still, I guess, a old school internal combustion engine type of guy.
I suppose. Breaking news. And you could probably tell by the way I said that I'm really excited about it. Tyres confirmed for Azerbaijan. Now, I'm going to quiz you now, okay? Australia, Bahrain, Vietnam and China were all C2, C3 and C4. What do you reckon the tyres are for Baku?
Probably the harder C3, 4, and 5. No, 1, 2, and 3. Sorry.
C2, C3, C4.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
They've got no imagination, Pirelli. What tyres should we take? 2, 3 and 4, whatever. Yeah.
Let's bring back the super hard tire.
I miss the Hypersoft, just having a really high degrading tyre.
Yeah.
Not Pirelli, it's not a U show on Pirelli. That was from Motorlat, so I'm just going to check that was official from Pirelli. can never be too sure. Thank you very much to Hugh for becoming a member. Thank you very much. That's awesome. Again, I will promise I'll try and sort it out. I keep forgetting, but I will. Why don't they just send you to F1? When you like Pirelli Motorsport, you click on a thing and it takes you to the wrong bloody. Oh, forget it. They're the tyres. They're black with colours on the side. They're showing a classification, so I don't know if that's them assuming it's over for the day. I don't think they've moved Kimi's car yet. The red flag's still out, so bit of a miserable end to today. But I guess first red flag of the testing for this year, so it's not all bad. It just shows how much running's been done. It was insane yesterday, and again today. It was quick run through this again. Actually, Raikkonen 134 laps, Perez 144. Ricciardo 41, Albon 128, Gasly 143, Vettel 70, Russell 116, Leclerc 49, Hamilton 106, Norris 133, Grosjean 158, Ocon 46, and Bottas 77. So there you go. Apparently the klaxon's gone off, Jess says. So does that mean the pits are open? I can't remember now. Yeah, Bottas, 77 laps. Is that good? I mean, Hamilton did 106. I know he's got his problems, Bottas, hasn't he? He's in the garage,
I was just reading that electrical issue was the reason why Bottas was not coming out.
There we go. The car is on the back of the truck. But nobody's really moving particularly quickly, so I don't know if we're going to get going again. 10 minutes to go. We might get a few minutes. Yes, I was just reading that as well. Bottas' day is done. Electrical issue has ended on Thursday. That was from Mercedes. I wonder if we'll get any information on Kimi Räikkönen. He just stopped really, didn't he? So there we go. Let's take a couple of questions. No crash. Sard, it was a mechanical issue for Kimi. Or we assume mechanical issue. I didn't see anything go wrong at all. So there we go. Yes, is it DAS? DAS? DRS? DAS, yeah. That is legal, apparently, although Red Bull are disputing that. Or, no. Specifically, Helmut Marko is disputing that. Red Bull might not feel that way. Mercedes did not hit 100 laps, Joe, unfortunately, because of Bottas' electrical issues. Oh, God. Is the C1 the old Ultrasoft? No, the
C1 is what hards were before they changed them.
So I think
and then it goes down.
C5 is the closest to the Ultrasoft, but I think it's closer to the Supersoft, for God's sake. Do you know, the only trouble with this whole renaming system is that it gets really bizarre that one race, the C3 can be a hard tyre, but another race it can be soft.
Yeah, and I feel like once we're in the season, it shouldn't matter, really. Just go into each weekend with whatever tyres and just call them soft, medium, hard, and let Pirelli work out which ones actually.
Did you prefer the Pirelli Rainbow?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I, as like a full-on fan, yes, but I can completely see why they changed it, because it was really stupid. Like going into a weekend with super soft being the hardest you can use didn't really make much sense.
It is one of those, isn't it, where it's like from a casual fan, you understand the change, but for hardcore fans or regular fans, at least we knew exactly what compound everybody was on, rather than having to guess at what it is. Or feel like guessing sometimes. Give me one technical reason why DAS will help Mercedes. I have no idea. It's just a system. Callum like the Hypersoft. Just having all the tyres clearer than it being explained overly all the time. That was my fear, because you've just got Crofty or whoever in commentary going, the hard is a C2, the medium's a C3, and the soft is a C4. If it's the colours that they were on the rainbow, you know what they are. Anthony Bilb, I was waiting for you to pop up with this question at some point. I'll put this to you two as well. Thoughts on Gutierrez coming back to F1? I mean, we talked about a possible North American driver for Haas. Gutierrez has been there before, still part of the Mercedes setup. I mean, never say never.
I'd be surprised. I think he's had his chance already. Obviously, 2 years with Sauber and then the year with Haas, and I think he got points once. He got 7th place in Japan, and that was it forever. So in a car in certainly 2013 and 2016 that was capable of getting points on a regular basis, he didn't really manage it, and he must be over 30 now. So I don't really see him coming back. I'm not sure what he's been doing since he left F1, but yeah, I don't think any team will really be going for him.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think maybe he's F1 ready in terms of his experience, and maybe he has the super license points ready to go. But I don't think it would probably be Haas's number one choice. And if he were to go back to somebody like a Haas or something like that, I think they might even just stick with Grosjean instead of going back to somebody like him.
I was never really sure what to make of Gutierrez, to be honest. He was another one of those. It was all right. Do you know what I mean? Like he wasn't. He was never going to set the world alight, but I think we've had worse. We've
Yeah.
had much worse.
Oh yeah.
Gutierrez did a couple of Formula E races while away from F1, says RP Perez. Can we bring back Felipe Nasser, says Billy Clark. Harry wants Pastor Maldonado back. Why? How has he become a hero?
How about him and Grosjean on the same team?
Well, we had that for a few years, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. No wonder Lotus went broke. Do you think the Ferrari is sandbagging, or do they have issues? This is their A-spec car. They've got the B-spec coming week 2. I honestly wouldn't read too much into this at all, timing-wise. I don't think there's any struggling going on there. Although, that being said, they've had their problems today, haven't they? Leclerc had a few minutes out. We are green, by the way, for the last few minutes. I think Leclerc missed, I think it was about 15, 20 minutes of the morning session with issues. So I shouldn't worry about Ferrari. They'll be up there. They'll be up there. Verline. What do you reckon about Verline, Chris? He always crops up when we talk about driver lineups. People are almost desperate to see him back in F1 giving another go.
Yeah, and he's a driver that's kind of stuck around Formula One. I know he did some work with the Ferrari simulator. I'm not sure if he's still doing the work there, but I heard that he was a pretty big help in 2018 when Ferrari had a pretty good car, and a lot of it had to do with the good simulator work that they were doing. So, yeah, I mean, we didn't really get to see much of Wehrlein at Sauber, and of course, he kind of got pushed out there because, of different kind of circumstances, and Marcus Ericsson was the preferred choice for them. But I wouldn't mind seeing him back in F1 and give him another shot.
Yeah, but I still think F1 misses drivers like Jev. I think he was dropped too soon. Then again, that's that Red Bull problem again, and nobody picked him up. I don't think he'll come back. I think he said he won't come back in an interview with Formula E. But I think there's so many. People mock Formula E drivers, and they're all F1 rejects. But there are a number of the drivers on the grid that I take over other drivers that are currently in F1. Obviously, Stoff. I want him back in F1, but
Right.
Jean-Eric Verne
deserves a chance.
I'm trying to think now. I had a number in my head then. Verne, Van Dorn. I don't think the door's totally closed for De Vries either, by the way.
Yeah,
He
there's
might get a
another good
shot.
name.
I was never a big fan of Buemi. If I'm being completely honest. Verline, I'd like to see him get another go. I think he was a bit harshly dropped, if I'm being honest on that one.
It's very unfortunate because obviously the first team he was at went bust, and
Yeah.
the second team he was at got replaced by the Leclerc, and they obviously had to keep Ericsson for money.
Yeah.
I think Verline and Leclerc would have been a really good lineup there.
Yeah, in 2018, Sauber was actually decent. So if they had Leclerc and Verline, that would have been very impressive to see how far they could have got with.
Jess was gutted that Hulkenberg didn't get a seat for 2020. I don't think you're alone.
No, certainly.
Fernando Alonso. Everyone wants Fernando back. Why?
It won't happen from all the rumors that I'm hearing.
It won't happen.
I was just reading, I think David Coulthard was making the comment that, first of all, like a lot of these teams are, like we mentioned before earlier in the chat, that are going toward the younger drivers. I mean, we've seen Ferrari commit to Leclerc, obviously Red Bull and Verstappen, McLaren with Lando Norris. So I don't think that a lot of these teams, because if Fernando were to come back next year, for example, I think he'd be 39 or 40 years old by the time he would make a return to Formula One. So I'm just not sure if any team would want to take an older Fernando Alonso. Not to say that he's still not a world championship quality driver, but as we know, there's a lot of other baggage that comes with having Fernando Alonso on your team.
That's a name that I'm going to mention. Jack Clark, Max Gunther. I'm a big fan of Max Gunther. He's one of those that I've watched for quite a while now, and I've been a big fan. So I'm glad to see he's doing so well in Formula E. Yeah, really took the fight to Lando Norris in F3, among others. So I'm a big fan of his. So yeah, I'd like to see him in F1. But then I highly rated Van Dorn, and look how that went. So he's probably better where he is, to be honest. But quick run through the order for a final time. That is the flag. It's all over. They did get going again very briefly. I say that's a flag. The green lights are on, but it is 5 o'clock UK time. So, and the official stream has just ended. So, Kimi Räikkönen ends today top of the. Okay, testing screen, weirdly. Top of the timesheet, 17.0, 134 laps. Sergio Perez was second. 117.3, 145 laps. I think we'd all take that front row come Australia. That'd be very nice. Daniel Ricciardo third, 117.7, 41 laps. Alex Albon, 117.9, 133 laps. Pierre Gasly, 118.1, 147 laps. Sebastian Vettel, he was in this afternoon, 118.1, 73 laps. George Russell, a 118.2, 116 laps. Charles Leclerc, 118.3, 49 laps. That does take Ferrari over the 100. Lewis Hamilton, 118.3, 106 laps. Norris, 118.4, 137 laps. Grosjean, who had a bit of a crash, 118. 0.496, 158 laps. Ocon 118.5, 52 laps, and Bottas 119.3, 77 laps. Didn't get through 200 laps today, Mercedes, because Bottas had an electrical issue which stopped his running. And I think Renault 93. So Renault are the only team who didn't go through 100 laps today. So we were very close to 2 full days of testing with no red flag and 2 full days with 10 teams going through 100 laps each at least. So that's frustrating. That's not good, is it? If you got OCD, I mean, come on, that's terrible. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there, lads. Thank you very much, Jamie, once again for coming along. A bit more notice this year,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you appreciated. Was
Yeah,
it 20
definitely.
minutes last year?
It was something like that. I was on the
Yeah.
way back from uni, and you were like, "I need someone for the afternoon." So yeah, it was nice to be back. It was enjoyable, definitely, and I'll be tuning into the rest of the streams when I can this week and next week. So yeah, looking forward to those as well.
Awesome. I'll keep an eye out for you in chat. But thank you very much, mate. It was great to have you on again. And great as well, finally, Chris. I say finally. We've only spoken a few times, but I do feel like we had a conversation a while ago about doing something. So it's great to get you on. And definitely, hopefully, have you on something again in the future. Would be awesome. So thank you very much. And obviously, everybody, don't forget to subscribe to their channels down below.
Yeah, thank you very much. My pleasure. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, thanks to Jamie as well. And yeah, hopefully we do it soon again in the future.
Definitely. But yeah, I'm sure I'll talk to you at some point over on Twitter and whatnot. I'll drop you a message later as well to thank you properly. But if I don't speak to you again this week, I'm sure I'll talk to you at some point over testing. So thank you very much again. And yeah, we'll leave it there, I think.
Yeah,
Oh.
sounds good.
Yeah, goodbye.
Take care, everybody.
There we go. Thank you very much, Jamie and Chris. Great to get them on. Both of them. It was just fantastic. A new voice as well on the channel. Always a boost. So thank you to both of them. That is it for today. I will be back 8:30 o'clock, I nearly said. It's been a long day. 8:30 in the morning for the third day of testing. I'm joined by John T and Jess, all the J's in the morning. Then me and Aldas will be live from 1:30 p.m. till 5 again tomorrow. Thank you everyone for your donations today. Don't forget you can still support the streams and the channel if you want to. Links in the descriptions for those donations down there. You can follow me on social media. All of the links you need for that as well. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new and drop a like on the video before you disappear. That'd be massively appreciated. These streams, by the way, for anybody interested, they will be staying up for a couple of weeks after testing, but they'll be taken down afterwards because they don't half batter your analytics, as it very much were, when it comes to the YouTube side of things. So they need to come down eventually. But yeah, thank you very much, guys. And yeah, I guess we'll leave it there. Terrible sign off again, but I will talk to you all hopefully again in the morning. Bye bye.